Hello, welcome to All Politics Are Local, America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. We are back July 1st. It's a wonderful day. And I believe everybody's somewhat on location right now. I'm calling from the beautiful state of Iowa, Des Moines. It's summer vacation. People are doing different things. I'm actually working at a debate institute. I both learn a lot about debate and teach debate over the summer. The wonderful Global Debate Symposium. That is a few really smart debate coaches got together and they are teaching debate. I am teaching debate. I am learning a lot about debate, and kids from all over the country are here learning about the art of debate for 2 to 3 weeks. And I'm actually in a building right now that's dedicated to George Washington Carver. It's at Simpson College. And I didn't know this until I got here, right? Like that George Washington Carver actually went to Simpson College for 2 years. They dedicated a building to him, and I am in that building right now. And behind me is a statue of George Washington Carver that we'll see at some point during the broadcast. So, welcome, All Politics Are Local. We've got a great lineup today. We're starting off with the wonderful civil rights lawyer Shavar Jeffries. We're going to be having a continuing conversation about vocational education and some things from the court, right? He's an experienced civil rights attorney, and we want to get into some of those decisions as well. At 6:30, we're going to have Levi Holmes from the Newark Bronze Shields. He's a retired member of the Bronze Shields, and he's going to be talking to us about one of those court decisions and guns and the prevalence of guns. He wanted to have some conversations about that from the perspective of a former police officer. Then at 7:50, we are honored to have Pam Africa come on and Dr. Todd Steven Burroughs come on. Dr. Todd Steven Burroughs recently finished writing a book about Mumia Abu-Jamal. Pam Africa is a legendary activist that was involved with the MOVE organization, has been involved in many things nationally, internationally, based on political prisoners, right? And trying to free political prisoners, specifically Mumia Abu-Jamal. And they're going to be talking about that at 6:50. At 7:30, we're going to have DJ Rhino in the State of Hip Hop talking about some of the latest things that are going on. I'm sure the BET Music Awards will be featured in some way. And then 8 o'clock, we have the Honorable Congressman Donald Payne coming on to talk about a lot of the issues of the day that are there. So that's where we are. We are broadcasting live. I'm broadcasting from from actually a hall at Simpson College. So first, welcome, Shavar. Welcome. Thank you for coming on again today.
Always good to see you, my brother. It's always a blessing to be with you. You're one of the most brilliant and thoughtful brothers we have in this country. So it's always a blessing to be with you, my brother.
So I'm humbled. I'm humbled. Thank you very much. You are brilliant yourself. You are a brilliant attorney. You are constantly helping people in various ways. You believe in networking, and I think one of the things I enjoy most about you is disagreeing with you. Right? Like most of the time, people argue and they don't like each other. Right? I think that's how we bond, right? Like I remember, and I keep telling this story about how we met for breakfast just to argue, right? About something that both of us were passionate about. So just to learn from because I always learn from you whenever every time we have these conversations, even though even when we disagree, I learn, and I think that's really a model of what we should be doing within our community anyway, right? We should talk, we should disagree. We should understand the value, right? The value that comes from disagreements with very smart, ethical people like yourself, right? Because even when we disagree, I 100% know that you believe in what you say, that it is grounded in a belief in what is best for our community. And people can believe different things about what is good for the community. And sometimes that's when we have to come together and have to have a conversation.
Amen. For me, I don't know if it's possible to learn outside of disagreement, right? And so I don't, being a lawyer, we're trained to argue, we're trained to disagree. It's a beautiful thing. I get it, in this world, people can take things very personal and especially the social media age, things are very binary, very false binaries, black and white and good and bad, tribal. So if you disagree, that must mean for some, you must be bad, you must be evil, which to me is unbelievably immature. And it's a way to be path deterministic, just keep doing the same things over and over again because you're not willing to engage in critical conversation. So I love it. I think it's great. I personally learned through disagreement. I have friends who on every issue, pro-life, pro-choice, and I like to engage on any question because I always want to, learn so that whatever it is that we're doing, it can lead to the best results for people, particularly for those in social justice work. If we're really just in this to serve people, we always want to make sure we're reflective and having critical conversations so we're reaching the best outcomes. So I always love talking to you, brother, and I always love to engage in dialogue on any issue that's relevant to our community.
And same here, right? Like, and we were disagreeing the other week on an issue of vocational education, and my goal in this 20 minutes is to get you to see if I can get you to agree with me about these new schools are a good idea. We were talking about the School of Architecture and Interior Design that is being designed in Newark, and it is a school that is highlighting certain forms of vocational education, right? Like, so it is and so I know that you had very strong opinions on it. And I want to start off, right? Like, this is a new school that's being built in Newark. It is going to emphasize vocational education as well, so that by the time that someone graduates, they will be able to do internships or apprenticeships that are paying apprenticeships upon graduation from high school in various jobs that are vocational in nature. So you had some strong opinions on this. I'm going to just jump out, start with you, and then I'll ask some questions, and I'll try to get you to see to get you to see if I can get you to see if it's a good idea or not.
Yeah, let me see if I can get you to revisit as well. Now, again, to be very clear, I don't know all the details about this school. So the post where we went back and forth, I responded to the way it was presented in the article, and it really, to me, was a departure for the idea. And to the extent this school fits the concern I have, then obviously it'll apply here. If not, it's about the broader idea. So first, for me, first principles, the vocational trades they can provide, that's honorable work. People can find good jobs in that context and put food on the family, food on the table to take care of their families. That's honorable work. And I believe those options should be available to those who pursue it. I start with a vision of K-12, though a K-12 should expand the imagination of young people. It should prepare them to do anything and everything. I believe our children are geniuses and can do all things. They can do things that we can't even imagine. And so my vision for K-12 is I want every student coming through the public K-12 system to have access to the most optionality, the most options, the credentials that will enable them to pursue any dream that they might have. They're still young, so they're probably going to change their mind as they get older. When they leave K-12 at 16, 17, 18, I want them to have a very flexible credential. So if they change their mind at 22, 23, 24, they have access to wide-ranging options. The fact of the matter is the college degree continues to be the credential that provides the most flexibility. It's just an empirical truth. You look at any data that speaks to pick a domain, pick economic opportunity. With a college degree, you make 1.2, 1.3 million more dollars over the course of a career than you do with credentials that don't bring with it a college degree. And it should be obvious. The professional services market is off limits to you if you don't have a college degree. So whether it's law, whether it's medicine, whether it's higher level positions in finance, professional services across the board, the white collar economy is for the most part off limits to you if you don't have the college degree. And even more so for Black and brown students. We know, because of the way racism plays out, Black people got to have more credentials than white folks to get to where they deserve to get. And so my concern about the way in which the school was framed, and again, I don't know all the details of the school, so to the extent that school actually will equip its students with the capacity to obtain college degrees, then I'm good with that. But it was presented as to say that this is an alternative to college, that we want to begin to track students at 12 years old, after 8th grade, 12 and 13, to vocational trades, including plumbing and HVAC. I have a problem with that, right? Because that is too young My view is the vocational trades should be available through community colleges. K-12 should equip our students with the skills they need to access any dream they have. The college credential continues to be the one that opens up the most possibilities. If after K-12 they want to pursue the vocational trades, not a problem. And if they've been exposed to every opportunity and they're actually ready for those opportunities, but they nonetheless choose the vocational trades, no problem. There's the community colleges where you can access those opportunities. There's all type of nonprofit providers that provide all support, all kinds of training. There's apprenticeship programs where you can access those opportunities through those routes. My concern is that after 8th grade, to track our children to those trades. And mind you, while we're talking about that, wealthy white folk ain't even think about this conversation. So where we got to debate this, they're scheming and do whatever they got to do to get their kids in a competitive college, while we're talking sending our kids at 12 and 13 into the trades.
Well, actually, there are a couple of things in terms of pushbacks. Well, first, the school actually functions just like Arts High or History High or any other specialty high school, where it's a full service high school. They get all of their high school credentials. They can go off to college afterwards, just like any other high school in the city of Newark. Only they can start making money upon graduation in an apprenticeship program. So you're 18 and you're like, and there are a lot of kids, right? There are a lot of kids who need to start making money at 17, 18 years old. Like to some extent, for some of our kids, when they're talking about college or you're talking about waiting to make money, that is a luxury, right? And there's some kids that we know that there are kids who drop out to make money in various things before the end of high school. We lose kids to that because they think that making money is a long way off. But like if you're a plumber, you make $80 an hour. And the one pushback I want to give to your study is that every study that you're talking about, they talk about not having a college degree, but they're not aggregating for trades, right? As in, if you're looking at both what other countries are doing, even if you're looking at even cities in New Jersey that are populated by citizens who are making money off of trades, for trades, you make more money than a teacher, right? Like if you're a plumber, you make $80 an hour. If you're a carpenter, you make solidly middle-class lifestyle, right? Like there are many people who are into the trades who make 6 figures a year, right? Like, so they're making more than teachers, they're making more than middle managers. And they're doing this at younger ages than the 4 years potentially taking college debt. So the one thing I want to push back is in every study that I've seen that talks about the $1 million deficit, that making a college degree, those are a college degree versus no training, right? I have not seen the college degree versus trades, right? Because it seems like if you're aggregating all of those things together, if you're saying college degree versus nothing, no training, then I got you, right? Because if you just have a high school diploma, it's fast food work, right? Like it's retail work, it's stuff that's summer job work. But if you're talking about a trade, you're talking about making a solidly middle-class lifestyle at 18, 19, 20 years old. That's fundamentally different than the stuff that I believe that you're talking about. So I think that the studies that you're talking about aggregate everybody, and they're not specific studies to trades, right? Like there was a recent program talked about that there's a shortage, like PBS just did, there's a shortage in trades, right? We're not finding enough people to fill those jobs. One of the reasons why we're talking about, when you talked about like white people aren't talking about getting kids in the trades, that's not true because the unions have been racist. The unions have been traditionally keeping Black people out of those trades, and people having to fight, to push, to open it up. One of the areas right now of opportunity is that there are few people in replacing people in the trades. That there's a lot of openings in the trades, which will give people a chance to break some of the traditional racism and sexism that have been in trade unions. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity to get our kids to start making money at earlier ages. I think we need to expand trades because we need a path to the middle class that is not just college.
Yeah, again, to be very clear, because what happens is I think, and we saw this in the online conversation, people pivot to the value of trades as if the conversation is trades versus non-trade. That's not what I'm talking about at all. Trades absolutely are honorable work. People can get to the middle class if you get to the trade and can build out a business that generates that, right? Because we should be very clear, not everybody with the credential to be a plumber, for example, is able to build a business to generate that amount of income. So my issue isn't that at all. I believe the community colleges should be available. So for those who want to pursue the trades, you can pursue the trades. There's all type of apprenticeship programs and nonprofit providers that provide those credentials and those certifications and the training to get to trade. So that's not the issue. My concern is at 12 and 13. Again, and if the high school is doing what you're saying, which actually will have a college track and that's available, then I don't have an issue with that. My concern is I would track that data though, and let's make sure at this new high school, let's see the proportion of kids actually going to college. So it's one thing for people at a press conference to say that, let's see what happens. My concern is if at that young age, we're steering those kids to the trades. The fact of the matter, and we got to be very clear, the fact of the matter is you do not have as much options. You just don't, and we can't pretend otherwise. But I don't. First of all, let me just say this, John. You're assuming just because you have the credential means you're going to have this business making $80 an hour, right? There's plenty of people with these credentials who aren't able to generate a business doing that. And the white collar economy is off limits to them. The professional service economy is off limits to them. The positions of leadership, by and large, off limits to them. That's why you make, on average, $1.3 million more dollars. I want our kids to have access to all of those options. Why in the world at 12 and 13 are we beginning to limit the possibilities for our students? I think that's just unacceptable. That's the concern that I have on this.
I think that part of me thinks that the concern is a little misplaced because it's not or, it's and. Just like if you go to arts high school, you don't have to become a musician or an actor. Just like if you go to history high school, you don't have to become a PhD in history. Just like you go to fashion and technology high school. Like the new fashion high school doesn't mean that you have to be go into fashion after you graduate. I teach at Science Park High School. You don't have to become a scientist. Like I became a teacher, right? Like we have debate programs. There are specialty high schools that give kids a leg up if they want to do these things. And their access to apprentice programs, access to programs, their access to for the new School of Architecture, they're going to be access to programs at NJIT as well, right? Like there are a lot of different things and options that kids have in all of these programs, right? Like so, and that's something I just found out from one of the assistant superintendents today, who was talking specifically about the school, that you will have full access to everything. In terms of high school. Like, so you will have more than what the state requires to graduate from high school. So anyone graduating can go to community college, can go to any of those other things, but they're fast tracked to be able to go into the trades upon graduation from high school. So there are connections to unions, et cetera, right? So I think that is a good thing because you're saying you need to make people wait. Why are you thinking that all kids are the same? Some kids
why are you already tracking the kids to the trade at 12 and 13? What I'm very sure is the case is very hard for institutions to do all of these things well you're talking about. So on one hand, you're saying the full college track is available.
Yes.
And it's setting kids up to be able to right after high school to allegedly go make $80 an hour. And I really want to see if that's really what happens. And what I'm saying is simply is this: open up all possibilities to these kids. You're going to take them out of the white collar. They want to build a business as a plumber, for example, right?
Or even work for someone else.
You can work for somebody else, or maybe they want to build their own business. Generally speaking, and there's all type of research on this, you build more social capital when you're able to get to college. These are the people who end up investing in your businesses. When you want to go to the capital markets to access money to build your business, those credentials help you access more resources to do that. There's tons of studies that speak to that. If at 22, as opposed to 14, they decide they want to do something else, right? They have a more flexible credential in order to do that. So the only point I'm saying is, again, this isn't about, because what happens is people get into, that this is saying that you're denigrating the trade. It's not saying that at all. Those options should be available after K-12. We shouldn't at such a young age track our kids so narrowly.
And I think that when you talk about tracking assumes a lack of choice, right? Tracking assumes that you cannot change or pivot. But if you graduate from high school, if you decide to change, there's nothing pulling you back from that. You have a high school diploma. You can do whatever you can do with a high school diploma.
We have 8% of Newarkers who obtain a college diploma right now. 8%, right? So this idea that there's all this flexibility, they have their high school diploma, they're going to do other things right after high school other than go to college. This idea they have all this choice and they're going to be able to make it back. The data just doesn't bear that out.
But I think but I think when you talk about the data, it says the opposite. When you said that 8% of people right now, like we have 8% of graduates who go into college, that means that we need other options as well that can push people into the middle class.
To me, it means we got to get our program better, right? I mean, I just saw the data from the district where was it 4% of kids are reading on grade level post-pandemic. I'd focus on let's get more rigor. Let's get our literacy rates up. Let's get our capacity of our children to compute math at a higher level up. Let's focus on that. What I believe is happening, and this is what I'm pushing. I believe because the rigor isn't there, instead of looking in the mirror as a district and saying we got to step it up in terms of the level of the quality of service we're delivering to our students, we're just going to plan B. Well, let's just get them to the vocational trades because we haven't gotten the job done.
But I think that misunderstands what vocational trades are. Vocational trades aren't really a plan B. They're plan A for some students and plan A for other students, or not a plan at all for students. When we're talking about rigor, trades do high-level problem solving every single day. It is not less rigor.
They make $1.3 million less dollars. It is very true. Every study is unbelievably true. The white collar economy is off limits.
Every study that
professional services off limits. Why do we want our kids to not have access to that?
First of all, you have never quoted a study. I have not actually seen a study, right? And I did some research on this. I looked at the study you're talking about, the studies that were talked about in the New York Times about $1 million more. They are talking about everybody who doesn't have a college degree, right? Now that is fundamentally different than people in trades make more than me. I'm a teacher, right? If you're in a trade, if you make $80 an hour, that is a solidly middle class salary. Those people are not included in that study, right?
But wait a minute. Are you talking about somebody with the credential or somebody who has the job? Not everybody who has the credential has a job. That's like in any. You said in the trades, as if you go to the apprenticeship program, that means you automatically get a placement.
There is a shortage of plumbers. There's a shortage in the trades. Like right now,
there are a shortage of asset managers. There are a shortage of people in the venture world. There are a shortage of doctors. There are a shortage of lawyers. Why are we talking to our kids about that?
When you're talking,
why are we talking to our kids about doing that?
We're talking about kids who can make money right out of high school, and there's a shortage. And your own
right out of college, they can make 8 times more money if they do what I'm talking about.
It's not
at 21.
Or. It's not or. It's and. Right?
But there isn't no and. You only got 8% in Newark getting a college degree.
So that means we need to expand what we do with kids who are not going to college, and we need to not ignore them, right?
We need to get that number up to 35-40%, which is what better performing districts do, as opposed to taking the foot off the gas and just saying we're going to see what they can do in the vocational market.
But again, I think this is a false choice, right? Because I think both have to be done in mass. We need more people in vocationals and in our vocations. We need more people in the trades.
We need more Black people and brown people from communities like Newark in venture, in asset management, in professional services. That's where they're not. And if they do what I'm saying, at 21, they're going to make way more than these opportunities you're talking about. And over the course of a career, they're going to make 1.2 million more dollars. I'd like for our kids to have access to that.
I think what you're saying right now, right, is just assuming that everybody who goes to college is going to end up a particular way, especially if you're talking about Black and brown kids who took out loans, who were in debt, who might not even finish college. They started college, they didn't finish college, they ended up with debt. It is not as simple a story as you tell, right? That's why all of these things have to be used, right? Like you need to make sure that vocations are expanded. Like this school—
You can go to community college and get that. I guess what I'm saying, why are you so keen? Again, this isn't about— the easy argument is to get into this, to make a straw man to suggest a person like me is saying that the trades are bad and they shouldn't be available. They absolutely can be available. That's literally one of the core purposes of community colleges. And in New Jersey, it's fundamentally free, right? So let me, right? And so that can be available. What I'm saying is this, on average, so all of these studies are average, they aggregate the data, look at the average, which is going to account for all of the permutations that we're talking about.
No, it doesn't.
All I'm simply saying is the bottom line is 8% is not acceptable. That's where the Newark public schools are. That's where many of our urban districts are. It's not acceptable. We need to be we should be talking about that number needs to be triple. And even triple isn't good enough, 25%. We should be focused on that, serve our kids better, that they will then have more options, they're going to make more money, they'll have more flexibility in their career.
I think
because what you're saying assumes a couple things. If they get the plumbing credential that they'll be able to get the money you're talking about. And it presupposes at 13 and 14, this is what they want to do for the next 40, 50 years, that they don't have flexibility.
Well, first of all, I think that's a huge assumption on your part, because if just like anybody who graduates from high school, they're graduating with the high school with a full high school diploma. That means they have the option to do any of those things, except for now, if they want to go to college while working in a plumbing job or in a job that can give them $40, $50, $60, $80 an hour, they can do that. They have more at a younger age.
What's your data from these programs you're talking about, that large numbers of kids are making this $40, $50, $60, $80 that you're talking about?
Oh, no.
So what data do you have on that?
It's just the plumber figure is just the regular figure I got from what plumbers make.
But the placement, right? That they're actually coming out. Because and they're getting these opportunities at scale.
Plumbers make a minimum of $80 an hour. That's
what they could make. I'm saying just
I'm
like
saying
if you're running a hedge fund, you could make $5 million.
No,
per year,
I'm saying that's a stand. No, they're no minimum wage plumbers, right? You go hire a plumber. You are looking at a certain amount of money to pay them off the door.
I understand that. I understand. So if you get the job, just like there's no minimum wage investment bankers, there's no minimum wage analysts. There's no minimum wage folks in venture who talk about that. So all of those options, they can forget about that in your world that you're talking about.
It depends on what. Wait. First of all, again, I have no idea why one opportunity precludes another. If you get a high school diploma, answer me this question.
You're talking as if the Newark public schools are at 90% sending kids to college.
If you get a high school diploma, why can't you have a high school diploma, right, from the school? You have potential courses from NJIT. You have a high school diploma. You are fully certified. You get a high school diploma. That means you're eligible to go to college. Why is it bad that you can make $80 an hour?
It's because eligible. So, for example, we know this. So, many of our graduates in Newark Public Schools go to Essex County College. They get their diploma, which says they're eligible to go to college. Yet, even when they go to Essex County College, what happens? 90% of them need remediation. So the little diploma says they're eligible, but they're actually not ready, right? So even at Essex County College, they got to then come out of their pocket for 2 years for remedial credits that don't even count toward the associate's degree. That's the reality. And so what I'm saying here is
every argument you're making is one that vocational schools at that same age is a positive option.
Say that again?
I don't know. In the debate, we talk about what's the disad, right? What's the disadvantage to doing that? I have no idea what the
disadvantage is, and I would bet you whatever you want to bet. The disadvantage is this. You're talking about a context where we're not doing a good job preparing students for college in Newark. That's just the bottom line. That's a fact, which is why we have an 8% number, which is why when our kids even go to our local county college, they need all types of remediation, right? So the idea that this new high school that is going to be focused on the vocational trades and, oh, by the way, allegedly will also prepare the kids for college. The idea that they're actually going to be ready when you look at our data, that's dubious.
So you just assume that the school is going to fail on every level.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that at all. I said it's dubious when you have an 8% college graduation rate, and if the high school is premised on the idea of sending kids to the trades, it's dubious to think that in that context we're going to get dramatically better than the 8% that we've gotten. What I would suggest is this. The district should be focused on getting that number up dramatically. That's what the district should be focused on. Let's get the rigor up, send more kids to college, they have more options, and for those who want to pursue the trades, they're available to you. You can go to the. What's the disad for that? What's the problem for kids
I'll tell you what the absolutely horrible disadvantage is to not offering vocational training in high school. you make kids wait who are in very different circumstances. A lot of kids are not middle class. A lot of kids
What they
feel
waiting
they
for?
need to make money. Right now, there are kids who leave school, drop out, and they get involved in
So you're
things that
saying
are
you're at
actually
14,
bad.
15,
Wait, hold on, hold on, and get
but it's a
involved in
straw
things.
man. You're not.
Hold
This
on,
is not-
no. Get involved in things that are bad for the community. Rahman himself talked about how he made certain decisions as a young man that he would not have made if there were certain things that were more available. He's one of the people who's forefronting a lot of the vocational training. Some of it comes from his own personal experience. I've had friends who were talking about how when they were 15, 16, they could not even conceive of college as a thing because it would take too long for them to make money, and they needed money now. So you have a large group of kids who have to make larger adult decisions at a young age. Now they have more options.
So let's walk through this. So let's walk through. So you're saying they're going to go to this high school, so they can wait till 17, and then you're saying after they graduate at 17, then what's going to happen? Then they're going to walk into this $80
at the point while they are still in high school, they have access to these apprenticeship programs, so that when they leave high school, they can access both apprenticeship programs and jobs that pay, starting if you are a plumber, if you've gone through this process, if you've helped been fast-tracked, if you are able to get through these unions, right? That is the point of the school. The point of the school is to be able to provide access to vocational education, so when the kid graduates, they can actually, access that vocational education, that the benefits of that. Like if you're a plumber, they don't care if you're 17 or 18 years old if you have those credentials.
Okay.
You can start fulfilling that job.
So you're saying what? So they're going to come out in high school and they're going to make $80 an hour? And how many of those kids are going to have access to that who come out of high school?
Given that there's a shortage in that industry quite a bit. That's why there's a push. PBS just had
a couple hundred.
PBS just had a special that talked about how much there's a national shortage in the trades. By national shortage, they're like they can't find people, right? Like when I just went to get my
put a bet.
Absolutely.
Whatever you want to, and I don't want to take your money, so I'm a actually maybe wear a Duke.
I'm a teacher. If I win the trades, I might be making more right now. I'm just saying.
Right? Okay, like I said, all of it. Let's. I want to see also. I don't know how many. I mean, what's about 600, 700, 800 kids will be in the new high school?
There are about 260 per year. So yeah, about 900 to 1,000.
So you're saying for those 260 kids, every year when they come out, they're gonna be walking into $80 an hour. You said what? Within a few months of graduation?
I would think that if they went through those vocational trade tracks, then they would be able to access those jobs if those jobs are available, which seems like they would be.
Let's please track it. So you're saying they're going to come out of the school, 260 every year, $80 an hour for a large majority of them. So let's please track the data.
And the reason why I'm saying that, this is not a far-fetched thing, is because there's been a demand for years to get more people in the trades. And by the way, I'm George Washington Carver taught at Black colleges, taught at Tuskegee. One of the pushes of Booker T. Washington, right? This is traditionally in our Black tradition, was to build a middle class through the trades, right? Because we knew that there was access to that. When I have to find a plumber, when friends are building houses, they have to find carpenters. They don't find people who look like us.
Do you know where there's shortages? Do you know where there's shortages as well? There's shortages in IT. There's shortages in venture. There's shortages in assets management. There's shortages in wait a minute. Let me finish. Let me finish. There's shortages in lawyers. Where are people going to make 5, 6, 10, 20? There's shortages there too. Why don't we talk about that more? There's shortages in all these other spaces. Let's get our kids into those spaces as well.
Shavar, I'm going to answer that question for our good Newark Public Schools. You're talking about what we need to concentrate on. Roger Leon, the superintendent, has made a straight push to open up a series of new schools that each has different specializations. There are some specializations in the School of Global Studies to get more people into law. There's a School of Fashion to get more people with access into that, right? So there are multiple schools that are opening up.
Where's the asset management school?
All of those schools, right? All of the schools that have been opening up so far are following the same model of a science high school and a history high school. And these specialized schools tend to be more successful, right? So when you're saying, hey, we need to do, yes, right? And if you're just saying we need to do more, cool. But we can't discount the massive push in Newark public schools right now to open new specialized schools. Vocational training is one aspect that's being expanded because it needs to be expanded.
Look, to be clear, and I can jump because I got to take my wife to dinner because I can finish on the phone. My critique really isn't about the Newark Public Schools. I use it as I don't really know the details of that. So this to me ain't about whatever the superintendent is doing. I know he's working his butt off. He has a great vision. So it really ain't about that. It's about the idea of vocational after 8th grade. Right, I don't know all the details of these programs. You're saying now, well, some of them actually be college prep. What I'm making a point is this, right? You're talking about all these shortages in the trades. I'm talking about shortages in the white collar economy where our kids can make a whole lot more money, have more optionality, have more flexibility. That doesn't mean the trades, we shouldn't do that too. Again, I'm saying through the community colleges, you're making at 17 is too late and they're going to come right out and make all this money. Bet, whatever you want to bet on that. The idea that all of these kids that are coming out and 260 of them are going to be making $80 an hour, I'm dubious of that. And I would push many of them nonetheless, is what adults should say, you know what? If you can wait till 21, if you got to do that at 17 and whatever, okay, it's there for you. But if you can wait to 21, you can get into the high 6 figures, into the 7 figures. Those are the spaces you can have access.
Like maybe.
I gotta go get. I'm gonna come back in from the car. Let me go get my wife because she cussing me out right now. I'm gonna give me 2-3 minutes. I'm gonna jump back in.
And Jonathan, what I want to say, I think when Shavar comes back in, and I don't know, hi, Kalina, we need to have both conversations. You know, in Jamaica, one of the things that they do, they assess the children in the K through 8, and based on what it appears their proficiency is, whether it be college bound or more of a vocational, then they're put on that track. So I think that we can have both conversations. And in the city of Orange, I have an example where our inspector for electrician who does our, go out and do all the inspections for when new projects come on homes and things like that. He had a conversation, and his teacher tried to push him towards college, and he wanted to be an electrician, and he went to be an electrician, and two things are happening now. He's a instructor at the Patterson Passaic Vocational School, and that teacher who tried to push him to do college, he makes more than that teacher. So I think we need to have both conversations. Everything is not for vocation. Everybody's not going to go on a vocational track, and everybody's not going to go on a college track.
I think that we have to be focused on all kids, right? And all kids having options, and I don't see any disadvantage of giving options those same options at an earlier age. And yes, I will take him up on that bet. It'll probably be like lunch or something, so we could talk, because it's always good. It's always good. And I'm glad that we're having these conversations. I know that Kalina was hitting for a second and jump back out.
He said 1 second, yeah.
Yep. And so hopefully she'll come back and also add to this, right? But I think these conversations are good, right? Like, I think these conversations about how we should educate our kids, what that education should be, is incredibly important, right? Like, so, that when he's saying, look, we need to do this in terms of college track and improve our schools, of course, right? And I do think that is one of the things that the Newark Public Schools is trying to do right now. I think that the reason why they're expanding the portfolio of schools to include so many different types of specialties is to hook kids in, to be like, hey, we're going to try to prepare you for a career, and here's all the access you're going to get at these formative ages. Like, when you're 14, 15, you're making life and death decisions. You're making future decisions all the time in high school. The decisions that I made in high school to join the debate team, to do certain things, actually helped to direct many things in the rest of my life. Now, that is always happening. High school is a formative year when we decide to. Yes.
And I'll give you an example. I want to talk to Superintendent Leon about this. Having a track for being a superintendent, that's a vocational trade that most of us do not. I don't know if they have an actual curriculum, but if a young person comes out and they go on a track and they go on to be a superintendent, Probably you got to have handyman skills, like basic carpentry and things like that. And you need to also have your boiler
You're like
license.
the superintendent of a building.
Like, yeah, like you're a superintendent. But guess what the plus is with that? A part of being a superintendent of a building, you have your salary, plus you have your residences included. That's a big chunk of a person's outcome when you were paying rent. So to be able to have a job and to have your your resident included in a job because you're the superintendent, that's a big plus. And to be 19 years old and to already have your rental take care of, plus you're getting a salary as well. That's something that we should not you know take lightly or look over, overlook, I should say.
Fair enough. So we're talking about some black restaurant that that we're going to bet lunch over. Shavar, you just jump back over. I jump back off. But when you come back on, I said there's going to be some. We decided what I'm going to suggest what the bet should be. It should be some black restaurant in Newark where we have lunch and have some more good conversations. And
Okay.
That's going to be the suggestion, because I do think that these things are actually important that we talk about in education. What are those options that are there? And I think where I'm coming from is it's all things.
Right.
Because we need to provide a bunch of options for everyone in the city of Newark. And those options are going to look different for different kids. Not every kid. I don't think every kid should go to college, right? Because I don't think that one prescription, and this is someone who loves college, right? College was very beneficial for me, but there are people who don't go to college who make more money than me, right? And I had a great.
Hey, John, do you think college is appropriate for only 8% of the students in Newark?
Oh no, I think that there are some people. I think that what you're saying is there are certain kids who are not getting access to what they want to do in life. And I agree with that, right? And yes, there are more kids should have access to college preparatory stuff. And I do think that's part of the reason for the push to expand the portfolio of schools in the Newark Public Schools. I think that is what the superintendent and the people are thinking when they're expanding the portfolio of schools that we have to give people more options. Many of those options are those college track. The School of Global Studies is all about becoming a lawyer or a diplomat, right? Like when you're looking at there's a technology school that is not technology, but there's a specific technology school that's dealing with becoming information systems and dealing with kids learning how to become like good hackers, right? Because that's a big field. So those are.
But hey, John, what goal would you set? So if you've been around forever, you're as smart as anybody in our district. What goal do you think the district should have? So we're at 8 now. Ballpark. What's that goal we should have in terms of college, the college credential?
I think that everyone in the city of Newark should have access to that. As in, no matter what high school you go to, you should have access to that, so that you can make choices among your graduation. I don't think people should be locked out, but I also think that includes affordability. I love what they're doing when they're working with Rutgers, because it's not always that people aren't prepared to go to college. It's that sometimes they don't have access. That's why I like what's going on with Rutgers Newark. Rutgers Newark has made a concerted effort to educate large groups of people in Newark, where Rutgers Newark used to not be like that. Rutgers Newark used to not care about Newark students. They have a new not now new, but they have their current administration is very concerned with trying to provide free, affordable education to people, right? So because there was a lot of people who didn't go to college because they had to take out, people taking $100,000 worth of loans, still paying back loans, right? We ripped off generations of kids, disproportionately black and brown, in a scam because we were like, hey, you have to go to college at all costs. And
look, I think what you're doing here, you're cherry picking the most positive looking trades where everybody allegedly is going to come and make these $80 an hour, and I can't wait for that bet. Then you're picking the worst example of college, so somebody who took $150,000 to major in Latin, right? Of course that doesn't make any sense. The reason why the averages
that these are complicated decisions, right?
Well, not really, because the reason why the averages are what the averages are is because it's unbelievably clear and not complicated that the college degree gives you the most optionality, where you make the most money, have the most flexibility, access to the white collar economy. It's actually not complicated. It's very clear. And this might be different if Newark was at 30, 40, 50, 60%. Middle class people are generally getting 50, 60% college graduation. We're at 8%. So this the conversation we having? Let's get those numbers up and then have this.
Part of the reason why we're having the conversation is because we need lots of options, right? Vocation is a legit.
But John, we don't have lots of options. You don't have the college option right now when it's only 8%. They got all these other options. What you don't have is the college option. It's only 8%.
They don't have the vocational options, right? Like in other words, there are a lot. Like the reason why this is coming up is because there are lots of Black people who do not have those options, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when
they have more access to those options than the college.
No, they don't have access to becoming plumbers.
Wait a minute, the listeners need to understand this. 8%, brother. Do you hear that? 8%. The middle class are 50 and 60, right? We're talking about 8%. So
and when you say
8%, yes.
When you say 8%, I got you. But that means that there are a series of people who are not getting access to things that they might want in terms of their dreams. That includes vocational education. When you say 8%, that number that you're saying is a reason for expanding vocational options. Not that we should delay them, but we should have
It's a reason to be riding herd on everybody. We getting those numbers up. Our babies deserve better than 8%. That's what we should be focused on. I need that number to get to 20 to 25 in the next 5 years. Then 5 years after that, 35, 40. Rather than saying we're going to not do that and then we're just going to say, you know what?
Well, first,
let's go to plan B, which is let's hope we can get them into the vocational space.
But no, I think that it's a mistake to think of vocational as plan B. For some kids, it is plan A, and a legitimate plan A, right? I think
because we haven't exposed them to, we haven't gotten the job done to show. It's very few families. If you go to them and say, you know what, here's a space where you can make $1.2 million more dollars, have more flexibility, more optionality, that they're going to say, nope, I don't want that. I want to have fewer.
So the number that you're talking
about,
right? The reason why I keep pushing back against this number is that the studies have to be aggregated by race, by school you go to. Like if you're going to an Ivy League school, that might be different numbers than if you're going to a community college, right? When they're talking about $1 million more, I'd like to see that aggregated, and especially compared to trades.
Georgetown does all that for you. The Georgetown trade we discussed on social, it has all of it. It deals with race, class, all of that, and these are the averages.
But they're not
even more than that, depending upon what you're talking about.
And but none of them are including trades, right? Because just in terms of the anecdotal qualitative evidence, we know that people in trades make as much, if not more, than teachers. Maybe not coming out, because teachers, we just got a bump, right? $62,000 a year as starting salary in terms of Newark Public Schools. But pre that, you're talking about when I go to a car mechanic. My car mechanic gets paid $125 an hour. They post that right up there.
If they have the job. Do you know how many car mechanics don't have a job? Do you know how many car mechanics can't find work? What are you talking about? Your whole argument is everybody who comes and has the credential can find all these jobs.
But that's true of college graduates too. There are unemployed college graduates, man.
And Shavar, so is your argument? Shavar, is your argument?
There are unemployed college graduates. There are people in college.
But on average, they have and on average they have lower unemployment rates. I can give you that data too. On average, people with college degree have lower unemployment rates. They're more likely to keep a job and make more money. Those are the facts. We got to deal with facts.
Right. That include trades.
So Shavar,
on average. Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So is your position that you just said that how many mechanics are out of work? So is that not the same for especially in our area? Because I think our area has a great amount of attorneys where we probably the numbers are really high. So there might be not a lot of opportunities, many opportunities for attorneys when they first start out. So are you saying that that on a vocation side, there tend to be more people that are unemployed, and the persons that might have a college degree or engineer degree, that they're less likely to be unemployed?
Yeah, I'm saying according to the data.
And are they employed in their field? Not just employed, but employed in their field study.
I'm saying according to the data, based upon degree as well, unemployment rates are lower. I mean, these are just facts, right? I think what happens sometime in people, I'm not suggesting here, but in other conversations, have people take things very personal. The facts are very clear.
But I think that the reason why I'm pushing back against your facts
more
is
options.
because
Why wouldn't we want that for our kids? Why wouldn't we want that for our kids?
I think that there are a couple of things. First, we are going to have to leave this section because we actually are starting our new section. We're going to have to revisit this as we always do, right? But next time we really need to break down these studies, right? Because I have not seen studies that specifically compared it with trades. They've talked about college degree versus not college degree. They haven't aggregated and the ones I've seen, and you brought something up, haven't really dealt with race, haven't dealt with, like, a lot of kids graduate from college and it's hard for them to find employment with their English degree. So we have to break it down by that too, or their Latin degree, right? So I think that it's the reason why I'm pushing back and saying it's a more complicated conversation is because if you aggregate Ivy League school and you aggregate science major with Latin major, with other history major, I think that we might find some things that are a little different, right? And especially if you put the trades into it, that's why I'm saying that all things have to be on the table. But I'm going to give you the last word, Shavar, for this section. As we move on to our next section, we have our guest, Pam Africa is backstage. Dr. Todd Steven Burroughs backstage. They're going to be talking about Mumia Abu-Jamal. But I'm going to give you the last word on this before we get you back.
Yeah, well, first of all, I love you. I love Donna. I love the dialogue. We got to be clear about what the bet is because I want to recoup. I'm looking forward to that dinner. Maybe we can do Marcus BP, Vonda's, whatever black on spot you want to do. But let's be clear about what the bet is. Yeah, I think it's a great conversation. Again, I'm going to be very clear because I've been in a bunch of these, because there's a lot of these conversations throughout the country and people can get can think it's misconstrued as suggesting the trades aren't honorable, the trades aren't good work, the trade shouldn't be an option available. Again, I believe it should be in the community colleges, and we have tons of nonprofits like Youth Build and many others that have made trade-related work available. What I'm saying in this context is the city of Newark, like many of our urban districts, particularly, it was 8% before the pandemic. And given that learning loss has been catastrophic because of closed schools, it may be 4, 5, or 6 right now. So what I'm saying is, sure, let the trades be available as an option through the community colleges, but we better put that foot on the gas of college, because the fact of the matter is, and I'm happy we can disaggregate the studies. You can cut it however way you want to cut it, and I'm happy to have that conversation. However you cut it, more money, less unemployment, more optionality, more flexibility. They even have studies showing a longer life expectancy. I want all of that for our babies. So, and in the city of Newark, it's not like we got a problem that we're overly focused on college when you're at 8%. Our problem is actually we're too quick, as far as I'm concerned, to have low expectations for our kids, right? And I'm gonna be a voice always to push against that, because frankly, it's too easy for too many to just go along to get along. And that's not you, brother. I'm talking about in our broader context in the city of Newark. Go along to get along and not push and demand what it is that our kids deserve. And so that's my last word, and I'm looking forward to further conversation.
And one very last quick question. Should the school exist?
I don't know enough about the school, brother. If it does what you said, so I don't know all the details, where it's actually really going to have a college going focus, it's going to have a rigorous preparation so that all students there who want to go to college are prepared to do so. If the vocational is supplemental to that, then I could ride with it. But I'd really want to study and examine that, because I think that may be stuff some people may say or think at a press conference, but the day-to-day execution, I'd be concerned about whether we're going to deliver on that.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, man. And we definitely look forward to having you back on to talk about all kinds of things. We're supposed to get into the courts and all this stuff, but we got into this lively conversation. So
I read all those opinions for you too, to be ready. We ain't even getting
on. Well, we got to come back. Well, Shavar, y'all enjoy dinner on this beautiful summer evening.
God bless.
Absolutely.
All right, y'all have a good one. Take care. Have a good holiday. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care. All right. So that's the segment of All Politics Are Local. We're always fun and always love having conversations with Shavar Jeffries about all of these topics. I am very, 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 very honored to have on the legendary activist Pam Africa and Dr. Todd Steven Burroughs.
All right.
Pam Africa, are you there? Hello, Pam
She's
Africa?
on mute, John.
Hold on, let me.
Can you unmute her?
I can't unmute you. Miss.
You
Oh,
hear me?
she's off. She's off.
Oh,
Great. Welcome.
Yes, welcome. Thank you. Love not there.
Love you back, and honored, very honored to have you on our program today. We know that there is stuff going on with Mumia Abu-Jamal. Can you give us a brief summary of what's going on right now, and what do we need to really pay attention to now? We know that you have been a long-term activist for years, right? Putting your body on the line. You have from when you're dealing with police brutality and the things that happened with you, the things that happened with Move. You are a living legend. You are someone I deeply revere and respect. You are respected throughout our community for all that you have done and you've been through, so that the rest of us can be free, right? So thank you so much for coming on this show. Thank you so much for talking about Mumia and the activism that you were doing. And we are honored to have you today.
Okay, and I didn't pay him to say that. Thank you. On the move. What's happening with Mumia right now? You're talking about the 40 cities demonstration that we're having on July 3rd. That's to bring people up to date. And I want people to understand we need people help now. We need people help right now. And because Mumia's life is in more danger now than it has ever been. I want to thank Todd Burroughs and for this magnificent, detailed, thorough book on what's happening with Mumia. And it will show you the evidence that Mumia is innocent. It will show you the frame up. It will give you the players. It will give you the movement. It will also tell you what it is that you can do. One of the things that I like to express to people, and especially those who already know about the innocence of Mumia, and can you hear me?
I can hear you well.
Right. Is that this book here? And people ask, what can I do? And we're going to talk about this book. I am so excited. I've been reading it all day. Is have book parties in your neighborhood. And bring in speakers. Because like right there in Newark, you got so many people who can speak on this book. Is like I said, it's detailed, it's thorough, and because we must educate people. We must go to the mayors of our cities, the city councils, the everything, the churches, and because everyone have a moral opportunity right now here to stop the murder of this innocent brother that put his life on the line so that we can enjoy, I'm trying to say the freedoms, well, the so-called freedoms that we have, enough to continue to fight to bring other people in. So the 40 cities is the work of the organization Love Not Fear. And it's one of the things that, we all got to get together and start doing. And I am 75, I'll be 76. I'm a grandmother, a great-grandmother, and a great-great-grandmother. And we have youth that is capable of taking this thing to the next level. We're well equipped. They are. They have this book that is new right now. And get it into your communities. The rappers start rapping about it again. And start doing the things that you were doing before. And people should understand. And people would say, well, I'm not involved because of this or that. And saying that you're not involved because of what someone else do. You got to put that aside. And because what someone else is doing that you don't like how they're doing it, then you do what you do. How we got to where we're at right now with a worldwide movement, because the people who have been working and work, we're not always at the same table. I did not know about this book until it was finished.
Wow.
And Todd was doing what it is that he deeply felt inside, a way of getting this information out, because he understand it is most vital that people do what they did. Me myself, I am a consultant in this movement, and the young folks have taken the reign, and I can pull together, tomorrow 10 people and sit down and we do a book study on this book. These are the things that we need people, to do. Do it however you do it, whether you sing it, tweet it, whatever. Get this information out here. And if people don't feel like reading, you can go to our websites, the Campaign to Bring Mumia Home, and Mobilization for Mumia, the MOB in California. Just Google and find out all these places, because these are people who are doing things, and join in with them. And if they don't, like, we don't have enough people, and we do a whole lot of stuff, but it's not enough people. And so at this particular time, you got something new to give the young folks, something new to give the elders, something new to give people who want to be in a fight against injustice, want to fight for the prisons, want to fight for housing, want to, bring our youth in. This book is full of what youth have done and continue to do. A lot of people say, oh, the youth ain't doing this and the youth not doing that. They're simply behind the fact that people have not been where the youth is doing things, and because they are. And a lot of them are here because of the respect that they have for Mumia. So I'm long-winded in my answers. I'm sorry, but
No,
that's
you're
what I
not.
think, should be done.
Well, we, as I said, we appreciate you. You have done so much. You've been through so much, and it is an honor just to talk to you, because you are someone who did what you did, and you sacrificed what you sacrificed so that the rest of us could live a little bit freer in this country. So thank you. Right now, you mentioned the book by my friend Doctor.
John, was Dr. Burroughs saying something, or he was just agreeing?
No, I'm getting ready to ask
Okay.
Dr. Todd Steven Burroughs a question. So she mentioned the book by Dr. Todd Steven Burroughs, who happens to be someone I've known since I was 14 years old. It is an honor, right, to have you on this show. It is an honor to talk to you about a book that I know you've been working on for well over 20 years. So Pam Africa said that there should be study groups for this book about Mumia Abu-Jamal. Talk to me, Dr. Burroughs. What is this book about? Why is it so important to talk about and know who Mumia is?
Well, thank you very much, Jonathan, and thank you very much, Pam Africa. Before I do that, Jonathan, I want to mention what's happening in Newark for 40 cities, because we don't have a pop representative here to talk about it. And Zaid would be talking about it if he was here. So I just wanted to say that the Newark event is on Sunday, July 3rd, between 2 and 4 p.m. at the Lincoln Monument, 12 Springfield Avenue, at the intersection of Springfield Avenue and West Market Street in Newark. And for further information, you can contact the People's Organization for Progress online, or you can call their number, 973-801-0001. Again, that's 973-801-0001. Now, we are at a critical juncture, as Pam Africa has said, because we are really at the beginning of the new fight, of the new death penalty fight. The state has been trying to execute Mumia for 40 years now. Literally, the conviction of Mumia happened 40 years ago this weekend.
Wow.
And the sentencing happened in 1983. Now, it was so long ago that when Mumia was sentenced in 1983, he was sentenced to the electric chair.
Wow.
That's how long ago it was. So Mumia has sat through, if we count his arrest, because he's never gotten out of jail since his arrest, by the way, in which he was beaten and put into the hospital, he has lived through the end of his 20s, into his 30s, into his 40s, into his 50s, into his 60s. He is 68. He is 68. He is almost 70. That means that we're talking 40 years in jail. We're talking all of his youth gone, all of his middle age gone. And right now he is joining a council of elders. There's a Mumia commentary that he just released yesterday, in which he's joining up with Julia Wright, the daughter of Richard Wright, and some other activists as a council of elders. And he did a commentary about that I just heard. Now, I've been listening to him for half my life. That's how long I've been researching and listening. He has produced over 2,000 commentaries, op-eds, audio, and text in the last 25 to 30 years. He has produced 12 books, and these books are not only books of commentary, but they're serious works of history, and he even founded in jail an entire academic subject, Jailhouse Lawyers.
Oh, wow.
Now, to give you an idea of the kind of pressure that Mumia has been under for 40 years, I'll just tell you one story. Pam can tell you dozens. Mumia was doing his master's thesis. By the way, he's in the PhD program at the University of California, Santa Cruz, in the History of Consciousness department. That's the department where Angela Davis taught for many years. So he's on the way to getting his PhD. But when he was getting his master's thesis, he wrote a master's thesis on Black religion that later became the book Faith of My Father. It's kind of he rewrote it because the publisher wanted a rewrite of the book. They didn't want the straight master's thesis. But to give you the kind of conditions that he's been under for 40 years, he wrote that master's thesis in pencil. Now, why didn't he use a typewriter? He didn't use a typewriter because the prison would not allow him a typewriter. A typewriter, they said, was a dangerous instrument. You know what was not a dangerous instrument? A television with a glass screen.
Wow.
Now, when he wrote the master's thesis, the university said, well, we need 2 copies. So he had to write the master's thesis again in pencil.
So they made him write a master's thesis twice in pencil?
In pencil. And it was in pencil up until maybe about 10, 15 years ago. Pam will know the details. It was only 10, 15 years ago that he was able to get, he kind of got a kind of a typewriter computer hybrid, and now he has kind of a tablet. But these are things that only recently happened. The majority of his time in jail, the majority of these books have been written in pencil. And the prison authorities have been very consistent over the years. In 1996, he was in an HBO documentary, HBO American Undercover. He was in a documentary, and the prison authorities, their response to that was to ban all recording equipment, including a pencil and pad, in all of the prisons in the state. That ban is in place at this very day. In 1999, when he was doing live commentaries for Democracy Now!, ironically, talking about political prisoners in Puerto Rico that Clinton was freeing, they pulled the phone out the wall while he was on the air.
Wow.
This is what he has been through in 40 years. So when they failed to kill him, when they failed to implement the death penalty, the forces against him got tired in 2011, so they transferred it to life imprisonment. Now, because of Mumia's age and because of the illnesses he has, they've really substituted one death penalty for another, because what they're trying to do is run the clock so that he can die in prison. This is what they want. Now, just this week, to give you an example, just this week, and Pam can talk about this because she was there. Just this week, there was a hearing for Mumia in which they said, "Oh, well, we can't do it this time, so it's moved to October." They've been moving it for years because they don't want all of this new evidence to be looked at, because they don't want to give him a new trial, because they know if they give him a new trial, the 21 constitutional violations, I'm going to say it again, the 21 constitutional violations, any one of them could get an average person off with a new trial or time served.
And I just want to break this down, right? Like, because when people talk about Mumia from the police perspective, right? Like, they say that Mumia killed a police officer. And I know you have studied this for over 20 years. There have been movies and documentaries on this. There was recently that pointed to his innocence strongly, and I hear is new evidence that came out that was in the basement of a police station, that a box of evidence that was exculpatory. Now, can you break down some of the both historic and recent findings that you found in writing this book about why Mumia, like, I believe that you believe that Mumia Abu-Jamal is a political prisoner. You believe he does not belong in jail, should not have been in jail, and the only reason why he's in jail is for political reasons. He is a United States political prisoner. He is not there for a crime that he has committed. You believe that he is there because of his political beliefs.
I'm going to let Pam answer this because she is really the expert on all of this, and I want her to talk about the Krasner papers as well, because that was quite a discovery. So Pam, take it over.
Right. Okay, I want to go back on two things. When Democracy Now! Am I still there? Because everybody.
Yes, you are. We can hear you.
Okay. When they pulled the plug on Mumia on Democracy Now!, they also, in the state of Pennsylvania, Democracy Now! Was not allowed in the state of Pennsylvania. This national program, this is such hate, and the fact that they don't want the truth out, coming out about Mumia, or the words, what it is that he's saying, because people are compelled to listen and do something about it. Then when Mumia was given a pencil, what they actually did, after the pencil, they seen that he can still do what he was doing. The inside of a ballpoint pen is what he wrote the majority of his things in. His commentaries, his essays, and part of his schoolwork was the inside of a ballpoint pen. And you can imagine how hard it is, but understand the love for the man to educate our people about what's going on. Now, Mr. Krasner, you will find in detail in this book, what happened, with him. He's the liberal DA here in Philadelphia, and a black judge by the name of Tucker, Judge Leon Tucker, after viewing for 2 years Mumia's case, he came up with the decision that Mumia need to be granted an appeal. And with the appeal meant that, he would get his chance to put before these courts here what was going on, because see, number one, is the world knows what's going on, but it got to be in the writings in the court as a matter of record, along with the things that they did wrong. But Mr. Krasner faulted on Mumia on several times because he had worldwide support to back up what it is that he that was being said. When Mumia was granted the appeal, his lawyers, for a strategic move that they were making, they appealed the judge's appeal. And in between that time, the King's Bench ruling came out, which was something that was illegal. It's very detailed and thorough in this book. And if you can't get the book right away, go to any of the the sites that I mentioned, especially the campaign to bring Mumia home, the mobilization, and the New York Coalition, and the rest of them. And you'll find how crooked these people are and what it is. They don't hide nothing. And King's Bench is an illegal. They illegally used this term King Bench. They was shot down on one time. They were shot down at the second juncture, and they went shopping for a judge with judges in order to do what it is that they wanted to do. When they finally got it, and it held the case up, and which Mummy was just about out, because if he would have got that ruling, and he would things would have been in a different aspect.
All right,
But
I just have a couple of questions.
okay.
But John, you wanted me to talk about Krasner. I'm going to do that very quickly, and you can ask these questions.
Okay.
Krasner found all of these paperwork from all of
And
these.
Krasner is the current
DA.
attorney
You can
in
see a whole
Philadelphia.
documentary series on him on PBS, right? Called Philly
Right.
DA. You can see that.
Right.
Krasner found all of these papers from all these different cases. And one of the things he found was one of the witnesses in Mumia's case, Mr. Chaubert. And Mr. Chaubert wrote a note to Mr. McGill, the prosecutor of Mumia.
The original prosecutor.
And the note basically said, "Where's my money?"
Wait. Hold on.
Where's my money?
Okay, all right, so I just need you to break this down, because it sounds. I want to make sure it is what it sounds like. So you're telling me that the current DA in Philadelphia, the one right now, found evidence, a box of evidence. In that evidence, one of the original witnesses against Mumia Abu-Jamal was writing to the original prosecutor of Mumia Abu-Jamal. And in this handwritten note, he is asking the prosecutor, "Where's my money?"
That's correct.
Yes. And not only that, he is the same person who said his car was parked behind Billy's car, and he's telling what he's seen. The Polaroid pictures. A brother, Michael Schiffman from Germany, happened to be looking at some of the pictures, and he saw where this cop was holding two guns in his hand. And right, so fingerprints should have been on there. They claimed there was no fingerprints on, Mumia's gun. But the other thing was, the divots in the ground. They say that Mumia shot Faulkner, he falls to the ground, and then, Mumia keeps shooting, and he rolls to the left, he rolls to the right, he's ducking shots, and they're going in the ground. The pictures show there is no divots in the ground where bullets had been shot like that. This man has lied about, being, at the scene, lied about what was going on at the scene, and they wouldn't allow this information in.
And by the way, award-winning journalist Lynn Washington.
Oh yes.
And Dave Lindorf, who also wrote a major book about the case and all the injustice in the case. They did a gun test. They took the gun and they took the sidewalk, and they did a test. That this is in a chapter in the book, and it shows that there's absolutely no way that these bullets went in the direction that the prosecutor said they went in. Now, and the Polakov photos are important because it shows that there seems to be a discrepancy at the crime scene itself, in which evidence may have been moved in the crime scene. And again, any one of these things, Jonathan and Donna, would have gotten somebody a new trial. So the fact that there's like 21 of these things, whether we're talking about the jury where most of the blacks were struck from the jury, right? There was a judge 20 years ago, Judge Yan, that talked about the Batson claim, that maybe Mumia could use the Batson claim. There's a list of these things that any one of these things could have gotten somebody a new trial or gotten off. But because it's Mumia Abu-Jamal, a former Black Panther, who's been extremely effective in communicating his radical analysis, whether you believe in political prisoners or not, he's a political prisoner. Lord knows he was a political prisoner of the First Amendment, because he was the only person to be put in solitary while he was on death row with a date to die. They put him in solitary because his crime was writing live from death row, his first book. So literally, he was criminalized for practicing journalism in prison.
Because Live from Death Row was a work of journalism.
Correct.
And he was literally put in isolation after he wrote and published that?
He was the prison regulation was engaging in a business or profession. And so because he wrote a book, he was in solitary confinement. So he had no access to his law journals and everything to even defend himself while he had that first death warrant. And again, one of the things we know about Mumia is that he's a very talented jailhouse lawyer, because not only is he a jailhouse lawyer, but Jonathan, I want you to understand, he founded the scholarship of jailhouse lawyering in prison.
What does that mean? What does that mean? He founded the, like, what is that you just said? And can you break that down for me?
Sure. Major writers and scholars, allegedly try to find new ideas, new subjects to write about, and they gather information, and they do interviews, and they gather research, and they write a book. And if that book is the first topic of the first scholarly topic, then they basically are the founder of that scholarship. For instance, I'll give you an example. I am one of the founders of what could loosely be called the study of Marvel's Black Panther, because I wrote a book on Marvel's Black Panther, and I was the first person to put out a scholarly work. That means that it's very difficult for somebody to write about the Black Panther without citing me or without doing the same level of research I did. Mumia Abu-Jamal, with a life sentence, wrote and researched and interviewed people, sent out questionnaires in the mail, interviewed people about jailhouse lawyering, a subject that he knows very much about, and he wrote an entire book explaining it to an audience, and he's basically one of the founders, if not the founders, of jailhouse lawyering. He did this in prison. So all of these books that he's written have been under the worst conditions. And that's what makes him a political prisoner, because there's entire legislation that's used to stop him. For instance, New Jersey is not a stranger to the Mumia case, because I'm sure Newarkers remember two things that happened in New Jersey about Mumia. I'm going to mention those two things. Number one, in 1999, Rage Against the Machine had a benefit concert for Mumia at the Meadowlands. Governor Todd Whitman's response to that, and the state legislature's response to that, was to take that money and give it to police officers and victims of crime. These are the kind of things that are made up just for Mumia. Another example, at our Newark theater, Cityplex 12, they were all prepared to show a documentary on Mumia that is very strong for his innocence, called
Revolutionary.
Thank you. Long Distance Revolutionary, A Journey with Mumia Abu-Jamal, done by a Newarker, Stephen Victoria. They were set up to show this at the theater, and Shaq cut it at the last minute. Because Shaq is very friendly with the police. He is an honorary sheriff and all this kind of stuff. So he stopped Newarkers from seeing that documentary in the theaters, and the People's Organization for Progress, Anna Mary Baraka, and Stephen Victoria, and Pam Africa protested Shaq's theater. So whenever Mumia does something, they literally try to make up a rule to stop him from doing it. And this has happened over and over again over the decades.
They also stopped Angela Davis' movie from showing. And before they did Mumia, it's showing the mentality of Shaq. And you put people up in places and put people on pedestals. You talking about an innocent man. You talking about a movie where Angela Davis is, where they're dealing with what happened to her as well. And this whole thing that's happening with Mumia goes a whole lot further. Do you know, in the anti-death penalty movement, and um, Hurricane Carter and got out of it in Chicago. I can't remember quite the name of the group there, but he got from out of that anti-death penalty movement because they were putting police on there. And when they got situated in there, they said they believe the death penalty is wrong, and that's what they've been stating, except when it comes to the case of Mumia. So
Wow.
how death penalty movement took this on, but it was brothers and sisters, who was amongst the people who was released from death row that was innocent, along with us who protested and exposed what was happening here. This is how deep and all these people's hands is into the murder of Mumia. There was a documentary that was done on, I think it's 60 Minutes or 2020, and that showed on, I think it was ABC, where they was depicting Mumia and making it appear that Mumia was guilty, twisting and turning what it was the people were saying. But oh my God, and a group of people from LA, journalists and people, got Danny Glover, and they produced this movie called A Case for
A Case of Reasonable Doubt.
Case for Reasonable Doubt. And they showed exactly how this whole thing, went down. They showed how the media manipulate people, and it's criminal. It's criminal. They should be locked up for what they did. It was exposed. We'll keep exposing, and getting people. We're at the point right now where all this information that we got, and and I always say, if people could have stopped the murder of Malcolm X, knowing what was going on and knowing that they were getting ready to kill him, and would they have done it? And when they knew the plot and the plan. The same thing with any of the freedom fighters that has been murdered. And what would you do? Would you honestly do? And we have that chance. And this ain't no, fairy tale that's going on here. These are facts. It's facts that they tried to kill Mumia on several times and failed. When Mumia had the hepatitis C, and because of Mumia, everyone in the United States can now get that hepatitis C, not the maybe cure, but the cure for hepatitis C. They told us that it will never happen because it's $1,000 a shot, and you had to take it for 60 days or maybe 90 days, right? And but whatever it was, we were determined to get that shot get that medicine for Mumia, and we did. But what happened? What we found out in Philadelphia, it was 7,000 people in the prisons that had hepatitis C, and people were dying like flies every day. The ambulance going in and out, and this is a torturesome death because it, erodes the liver. It shuts down and busts the veins in your arteries, and it. Oh my God. And men and black men in the prisons and was walking around looking like, black cats with yellow eyes, and because it causes yellow-ginus. The deaths was like bang, bang, bang every day, and because they would not give them the medicine. And when they finally decided, when we kept pushing, they came up with this thing, and they tried to keep it quiet. In order to get the hepatitis C shot, and the cure, and you had to have over 60% of your liver or your kidney liver, and calcified, and you had to be bleeding from the esophagus, and you had to be near death. That's the only way you can get it. But lo and behold, and when we kept pushing and pushing, and it takes a push. It takes everybody doing what everybody doing. And when we went to the board,
and this was recent, right? Like you're not
this
talking
was
about
only a few years ago. And Jonathan, I want to say this. When Mumia got COVID last year, and that's how my book starts. My book starts with the struggle about COVID. It was hepatitis C all over again.
yes.
Right? And so these activists, and I happen to observe this, and that's why the first part of the book is devoted to this. These activists worked day and night for about 4 months until Mumia got the treatment for COVID that he deserved. And this is how serious this is, because again, what they're trying to do now again is to run out the clock. They want all the political prisoners to be sick and either have their brains be mush or have their bodies be mush. And once one of either the brain or the body is mush, then they wait literally to the last minute and they let them out. This is what's happened to Maroon. This is what's happened to Akoli. And they want this to happen to Mumia. They want Mumia to be non-functioning. So when they let him out, he can no longer be an intellectual or political threat to this country and to white supremacy. And so the chase now is on this new death penalty, this slow death penalty that they're trying to give him. So in addition to all of the violations they did all over these decades, now they're trying to do this final trick of letting the clock run out on him and all the other political prisoners. But I noticed Donna has not said anything yet. Donna, do you have any questions for Pam?
Sorry about that. No, at this time, I'm in the background trying to do some research. I put up the movie A Case for Reasonable Doubt so our audience can get that. So I'm kind of listening to what you're saying. And
speaking of research, John, Mumia has literally gone into history. There are about 7 doctoral dissertations and master's theses about Mumia. And the story that Pam mentioned on ABC, that was a 2020 segment called Hollywood's Unlikely Hero.
Right.
And there's been at least one master's thesis critiquing that piece. So this man is a world historical figure at this point. He wrote his way into being a world historical figure. And with the movement that has developed around him, that's allowed him to syndicate his commentaries, that's allowed him to publish books. I mean, he published a 3-volume history with Stephen Victoria on the decline of the American Empire, right? And one of the chapters in my book is written by Dr. Kelly Harris of Africana Studies at Seton Hall University. That's about Mumia's impact in Africana Studies, although I like to joke and say it's about his non-impact in Africana Studies, because Africana Studies people are afraid to include radicals in their analysis, so they ignore all of the history and radical perspectives that Mumia Abu-Jamal has presented.
So it seems like, Donna, you were saying?
Yeah, I would say, Dr. Burroughs, I would like to ask one question. The young student is at the like Temple University, at the various colleges. What impact has this had on them, and how are they involved? Are we getting our young people on campuses involved?
Well, that's what Love Not Fear is trying to do. Love Not Fear is run by younger people. Mumia Abu-Jamal's grandson, Jamal Hart Jr., Yane Indigo, and some other folks. They're trying to organize young people across the country.
Jr.
I'm sorry, and Mike Africa Jr. I'm sorry. And people might remember Mike Africa Jr. from the documentary that was on HBO. What was it called? 40 Years in Prison? Was that
Yeah.
what it was
Right.
called? Right. And that was about the members of the Move 9. That, by the way, Mumia supported as a journalist. He went and interviewed them. He did an in-depth interview that I've heard of the Move 9. So Mumia was trying to explain what the Move members were about way back in the 70s. So he's always had this kind of consciousness.
Yes, Mumia, Lynn Washington, and Joe Davison in 1977, when that confrontation kicked off with the city and Move. And that's when I think they were coming around a couple years before me. And but May 20th of 1977, when Move took a defensive stand against this government for the beatings, the maiming, the killings, and the jailings that they were doing to move people, that's when we came around. Lynn is still here, Mumia is still, I'm still here. And we all come from different aspects, of, what was going on with, with Mumia. But again, before time run out, I really want to express. Oh, and in Philadelphia, there's 40 cities, and that's going to be at Thomas Payne Plaza. That's right there, City Hall on the west side, and that starts at 1 o'clock. If you can go to the Love Not Fear website, they give you all the different places. And Berlin, Washington, and my hat's off to that brother, and because I know what he went through, and standing up for the truth for Mumia, and having to deal with the police and colleagues, and some who believe that he was guilty, and don't waste your time, move on. Lynn has lived a full life doing what he had to do, and Mumia, never missing a beat. So he's a journalist, amongst journalists that I really like to tip my hat to, and bringing other people in. I also want to talk about the New York Coalition, who is bringing a busload of people down to Philadelphia. They've been here for years and years and still here. And, I just want to mention, some of those, people that's, working. And the mere fact that Julia Wright, she's a beautiful strategist. She brought here, the the children of Pan African. Her, Julia Wright, the daughter of Richard Wright, she brought the son of W.B. Du Bois. She brought the son of Gamal and Nkrumah here to the city, and her and other French people, Claude Pouchot, and Jackie, and the mayor of a place called Bobigny, that when you walked into that place there was from the wall and like halfway down, a full mural of the picture of Mumia, and it's some of the most magnificent things. Charlotte O'Neill in Tanzania, and who's coming here next month, and broadcast from their Mumia commentaries. It's the everybody. It's the street people. I'm a street warrior, and I can do and sit down with President Fidel Castro as a guest that was invited there. The First Lady of France, Danielle Mitterrand, who marched with 10,000 people in the street for Mumia. And but I'm saying it takes everybody to do what it is that you do. People don't understand the pressure you got to put on them. When they wouldn't give Mumia his medicine, we demonstrated every day at the Bellevue Stratford Hotel. That's where the governor's office in Philadelphia is. And what it was, I was getting ready to say, they had 7,000 people with hepatitis C in the prison. Through the work of, trying to free Mumia, we found out from the Board of Health that there was 46,000 in the city of Philadelphia. Then we learned that, all throughout the state of Pennsylvania, they had little red pinpoints where they were showing the places that had, the hepatitis C. Oh my God, it wasn't just in the prison, it was on the outside. It was an epidemic. And we joined the Board of Health people, demonstrated with us. And it's a gay organization, and for men on 13th Street. I can't think, it's John something. I can't think of the name. And there's another group, that a prison group that is ran by people that gave the information that I was able to go in, me and a brother by the name of Joe Piet, and pull out, and to bring back into our communities, into the Black communities, what we found out, what we can do. We gathered all together. We shut down Broad Street. Wasn't nothing going to move here, while our other brothers and sisters was doing all the different things that they were doing. I say it takes everybody to do what it is that you do, and to help Mumia. If you want to put on a fancy art show, they did it in France, and we did it in from the prison. Artwork from all of the different prisons was there for Mumia to help raise. In the prison, people are fighting for Mumia.
So it is clear that Mumia is known internationally, all over the world, as a political prisoner.
And these protests over the weekend are going to be not only in America but around the world as well. The 40 cities are international.
And in this international movement, it seems like the latest push is to just get the hearing. Can you tell us about this hearing that's been put off? You mentioned it earlier, but I'm not quite sure. Is it the hearing where they're going to question this new evidence that was found by the current prosecutor in Philadelphia?
No. Well, when the at the hearing on Monday, we found out that the judge, our Mumia's lawyers asked for a 45-day extension, right? The judge turned around and said that they were extended until October. That's when she'll make her decision on what's happening with Mumia. These are things that should have been happening a long time ago. Mumia was before Judge Tucker. They have removed Judge Tucker, who was the one who gave the decision that Mumia is supposed to have an appeal based on evidence. I don't know what this woman is planning on. She's a black judge.
So Mumia was supposed to have an appeal based on evidence. In other words, an appeal was already supposed to have been had, but they removed the judge.
And okay, what happened when they asked for that King's Bench piece and to find out, because what Maureen Faulkner and the police was saying was that Mumia, that the DA was favorable to Mumia. So therefore they did, because I'm saying at the point that Mumia was granted the next step and to have his case heard, that's when all this other crooked stuff happened. And they had to stop it. They came up with this game that they was playing and called the King's Bench Act that was not something that was to be used in that case that way. They'll illegally shop. What the King Bench Act did was stop the trial. And because we supposed to been going to the next stop, they stopped the trial and took the DA to task. Nothing was moving. The lawyers and stayed to the position and paid attention to what the judges what they said, that you cannot put out information. You cannot say nothing about what's going on at this time. In between that 6 months time that they took to come up with a decision, the pandemic happened in between there, and things was going on for a long time. When they came back with a decision, the decision was, and it was illegal, that Mumia didn't meet the criteria. Oh, wait a minute, no, I'm back me up, because after all that time that they took, and they took all of Mumia rights away, because number one, there was nothing in the papers for a while, and as hard as we tried getting information out, the only yes it was, but the fact that they were trying to kill Mumia, that's what was going on too. And it's important that people follow what was going on besides what was happening in the courts. And these people at this particular time.
So to summarize what Pam is saying, while the Faulkner forces, the forces that had the police officer, were trying to delay the process, the prison officials were not treating Mumia for COVID. You see how this is being set up?
So just to be clear, right? Like, because Mumia was set to have a new trial, and then there were delays. Can you just break that down to me? And then COVID happened. What was going on? Like, there was supposed to be a process in which either Mumia's appeal was supposed to be moved forward. Was there a new case that was supposed to move forward?
The King Bench decision came down.
But can you break down to me what that was? Like, what was going on and what stopped it, and what is the King Bench decision? I'm not familiar with that.
Could you detail that one?
I can. The King's Bench jurisdiction is something that you can use to delay like a trial. Like you can use it as an appeal that would allow you to kind of stop judicial proceedings. So the Faulkner family used that
And the Faulkner family is the family
of
of
the
the slain
slain police
officer.
officer. So they
Okay.
use that to delay the trial because to delay the hearing because see if he gets a real hearing, then they've got to deal with all of this new evidence that keeps piling up. That hearing would lead to a new trial.
So in other words, they're based on the new evidence that seems exculpatory, right? Like the evidence that was found by the new prosecutor in the prosecutor's office. So you have the Philadelphia prosecutor who's finding new evidence that is potentially exculpatory. There's a hearing not just on that evidence, but on all of the other violations that went on. So a hearing was scheduled. There was supposed to be a hearing, but the family of the officer, the lawyers used a procedure that delayed the hearing.
And the procedure that they used, and at the very end of it, and they held the case up for 6 months, and Mumia was getting sick at that particular time. We almost lost him twice. During that time, they were torturing Mumia, trying to kill him at that time. During the time that they was doing this King Bench, piece. Because at the very
during
end,
the delay, COVID happened. He was getting sick from.
Well, but keep in mind, he had COVID, but he had COVID on top of his
hepatitis.
liver cirrhosis because they waited too long to give him the Hep C treatment. And then you add the heart condition he had where he needed the open heart surgery. See, so all of these things were happening at the same time. Mumia is a black man who is struggling with several conditions the way many of us are in our late 60s. But he was a very healthy man. He's been a lifelong vegetarian, almost a lifelong vegetarian. But these prison conditions have had its toll. So all of these things are happening at the same time. While he is trying to fight for his life and the activists are trying to fight to make sure he gets the medical treatment he gets, his lawyers are trying to fight, but there is delay after delay because they want to stretch this out until he gets too sick to function.
So right now he's supposed to have a new hearing. They put it all the way back to October, even though, and you suspect that at the last minute they might try to delay again because they really don't want, because it seems like he is supposed to just get a hearing. If he gets a hearing, then all that evidence can be laid out, right?
Absolutely.
It's like the new evidence, the things that have come up, that's like, wow, well, how many constitutional violations can there be without a new trial?
Absolutely.
How much evidence can come out? Like, how do you find evidence? How does the current prosecutor, the person is responsible for law and order in Philadelphia, find in the basement of the police precinct evidence that has a major witness asking the former prosecutor for money? Like, where's my money? And he was a major witness in the case. Finding evidence of that, all of that seems like it would have to go into that hearing. And
we're not even talking about, people who have talked about how they were pressured by police, like Veronica Jones, who was at the scene, who was pressured by police. She wrote a whole book, or her sister wrote a whole book talking about how they had pressured her to make her lie on the stand.
Yeah, her sister did that. But also in dealing with the cab driver, the pictures show that cab wasn't there. The man was lying all the time. His cab was not on the scene.
And this is the person who wrote "Where's My Money?"
That's right.
So a person who wrote "There's My Money," and what you talked about is that there's actual physical evidence, pictures that seem to contradict what he said, seemingly on multiple levels.
Exactly.
Wow. And the point right now is to try to bring enough attention to that, this international issue, because you're saying that, all over the world, people have been protesting for many years, and it seems like there's a race to try to free him before he dies of not he dies from neglect and the things that they're doing to him in prison, from keeping hepatitis drugs from him, from not giving him proper treatment during COVID. He's actually had open heart surgery all in the span of time when he was supposed to receive a new hearing that just never came forth.
Right. One of the things they did, they for months did not give Mumia what the doctors, what the hospital said he had to have. And this is this treatment and all that he get on his machine for that, itching that he had, and which was his skin, I mean his body blew up, and it was just so damn horrifying, and to see him in the condition that he was in, because they were outright trying to kill him in front of all of us. And but there's something so strong, much stronger than these people. And because Mumi was able to come through it with the love that people had put into this fight for Mumia's life, and to the point that they had to drop it. And they couldn't kill him. It's not because they wasn't trying. They stopped the machine that was stopping him from itching the way he was, tearing his body apart, and you wouldn't give it to him. We had to fight to get that back. We had to fight. We had to come united together on each of these levels, and now we must come much closer. We must hit this like they got the electric cord, and getting and plugging it in. They got it right at, this is where they're at. And these prolonged things that they know that they're losing, because what can you do with this evidence that everybody know but keep prolonging while they're trying to kill him, and extend this case to October.
Right.
It's nothing more. What we're watching is the assassination, the attempted assassination through Mumia. When all the evidence of innocence is here, it's just like that sucker that used to be in the White House. And with everybody seeing all what's happening that he is doing and what he has caused, this sucker is still walking around here.
And
It's
so
still around here. So I'm saying, we got to rise up. We got to rise up, and we got to be much stronger, because everything we need to bring Mumia from out there is here. And here, Mama, God, Allah is always bringing us something. This book is bringing it back to the forefront of what is going on here. And I'm saying we need to get it in our schools. We need to have it as a discussion on every radio station. Every TV should be talking about what's going on. They ain't doing this in no vacuum. They're not hiding what they're doing. This is attempted of cold-blooded, premeditated murder right here in front of us, with us having the evidence.
And
so I'm saying rise up. Let's work.
And what I want to ask a question. You mentioned the book, and you talk about how important the book that Dr. Burroughs wrote. Dr. Burroughs, what is in this book that gives us something new? Like, there have been many books written on this. There have been master's theses written on this. I know that you have worked on this for 20 years. You've talked about this since you were in your early 20s. And had tons of research. I remember seeing like crates of research on Mumia.
That's right, on the floor. That's right.
Right. Just crates of research.
Let me tell you a couple of things. First of all, I want to point out that I'm not keeping any proceeds from this book. Proceeds are going to go to the Mumia movement and to the Jericho movement. The Jericho movement is the national movement of all political prisoners. So I wanted to say that first. And I also wanted to say second, that Pam is going to be selling the books in Philadelphia. The People's Organization for Progress will be selling the books on Sunday at the downtown event. So I wanted to say that first. It's not that what I've compiled is new. It's that what I've compiled just shows step by step how ridiculous it is that this man is still in jail. Because what I do in the first part of the book is talk about the fight to get him cured from COVID, which again rhymes with what happened with hepatitis C. And so all the activists are speaking about all of this in context, in the same context we're outlining tonight. So if you want more detail on the King's Bench, if you want more detail on the hepatitis C, if you want more detail on the COVID fight, that's the first section of the book. That section is called Now. Then I have a section called Then. And then is showing everything in Mumia's life that's relevant that leads up to now. So there are 2 chapters about him being a Black Panther. There are chapters about what he was like as a journalist in Philadelphia. Lynn Washington wrote a great piece on that because Lynn has known Mumia, been a friend of Mumia for 40-something years. Then there's the piece that Emerge magazine wrote. The only cover story Mumia Abu-Jamal ever got in a mainstream magazine was in Emerge. And I got the writer, Joe Davidson, Pam mentioned him. He was the incoming president of the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists when Mumia was arrested. See, Mumia was the outgoing president of the Black Journalist Organization in Philadelphia, right? This is how important he was. He was also an award-winning journalist for NPR and other places when all of this happened. So Joe Davidson writes a piece. And then Michael Schiffman and Dave Lindorf go into detail about the frame-up, the legal frame-up, problems that Mumia's had with his lawyers, etc. And then we keep going on, and I end the book, because I try to circle it. I try to make it into a circle. I end the book with, ironically, Mumia talking with Essence magazine about all the prisoners getting COVID. And this was before he got COVID. So the book begins with COVID and it ends with COVID. And that's a kind of that's a loose structure of the book. Now, Julia Wright has a great postscript where the open letter she sent to Governor Wolf of Pennsylvania to free Mumia is also in that book, and that's how the book ends.
And is the reason why you started and ended with COVID is because that's symptomatic of how prisoners in the United States are treated as a whole, like what we think of prisoners and Black people in particular, right? Like as in the number of Black people who died in prison of COVID, and it was almost willful. Like they knew better. They knew that there were people, they were like, should we release people who shouldn't be in jail anyway, or should we let them die of COVID? Is the reason why you started and ended with COVID because it is emblematic of our disposability in society?
I will take your deep symbolism as a yes. The actual reason that I did it is because Mumia, commenting on COVID shows a little bit of an irony at the end of the book when he has it in the beginning of the book. So I try to do a historical circle, but there definitely is always a symbolism about Mumia Abu-Jamal's plight as a prisoner, because he is not a normal prisoner, right? Clearly, as we've seen from his example, his work example, he is not a normal prisoner, but he is exposing what American prisoners are like. And so if American prisons are horror chambers for somebody like him, who has this incredible support system, who has people who are willing to stay up day and night for months to save his life, what does a normal brother or sister have?
Right. Right. Fair enough. We are getting ready to go to the close out this particular section. But I would love to have you, Pam Africa, end us off with what is it going on? What is it that needs to be done? And any way that you'd like to end off this segment. Pam Africa. Todd, I'll allow you to do that.
Yeah, Todd, you got to pick up the torch.
Yes.
Was the question again? I was looking up the hip hop stuff because I know the hip hop stuff is coming.
Before we ask you that question, included in that question, like who is your favorite hip hop artist, individual or group? We will ask you that question. We're asking you that question now, and can you wrap that up in your answer? That will end off this segment.
Well, what I'd like to say is that what people can do, because I think that's the question that you initially asked, is that people can contact Love Not Fear, and fear, by the way, is spelled PHEAR, Love Not Fear, and join if you're in Newark, if you're around Newark, join that protest. If you're in Philadelphia or can be in Philadelphia, you can get on one of the buses in New York, join that protest, because this is only going to end with Mumia getting out of jail. And I can guarantee you that it will end with Mumia getting out of jail. But we want Mumia out of jail functioning and cogent and still ready to give the critique of the American society and of the West that we have needed for so long. Now, I'm going to do something a bit different, Jonathan. I'm going to mention prominent hip hop songs that mention Mumia or have Mumia.
Okay.
So what I want to mention is that Diggable Planets has in the chorus of their song, the May 4th Movement, they mention Mumia Abu-Jamal and Odinga, right? And another song by Immortal Technique, A War Against Us All, Immortal Technique uses one of Mumia Abu-Jamal's commentary, and that's in his album Revolutionary Volume 2. The Diggable Planet song comes from their second album, their much more radical album, Blowout Comb. Now, KRS-One, I'm now reading a page from my other book, because this is one of two books I have with Mumia. This is not my main book. I have a 340-page manuscript on Mumia that I haven't yet published yet. That's the full biography. This book is just kind of a combination scrapbook and biography and anthology. But I have a main biography that I haven't published yet. So I'm quoting from that page. So KRS-One released a song with Mumia Abu-Jamal in the title. It was a song in which he was, damning the critics of hip hop, saying that black activists should be focused on Mumia Abu-Jamal's case instead. And that song was called Free Mumia. So there are many songs that mention him, and it was really before I even got involved in the case. Diggable Planets was talking about him because that was in 1994. So there are many references to Mumia in popular culture, and there's going to continue to be. But I see the Congressman is here.
Yes, yeah, we're getting ready to move to the next segment. But I want to thank you, Dr. Todd Steven Burroughs. I want to thank Pam Africa. I want to thank I want to thank Shavar Jeffries, our guest on from earlier, and everyone we've had so far on the show. We're getting ready to move on to our next segment. So thank you, Todd. I very much appreciate having you on, telling us about Mumia Abu-Jamal and what's currently going on. So. We're getting ready we are moving on to our next segment, which is the Payne Report.
Can I mention something on your last topic?
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's interesting. Interesting how it's such a small world. You do know he was from Newark, correct?
No, I did not know that. I did not know that Mumia was from Newark.
Yes, as a matter of fact. We're talking about the young man incarcerated for allegedly killing a police officer, right?
Right. Mumia Abu-Jamal. Dr. Todd Steven Burroughs just wrote a book on him.
Okay. He was from Newark, and he was one of my father's YMCA kids.
Wow.
So, there's a connection there. And, my father always, tried to, the degree that he could, was advocate for him. And at one time, my father was chosen to be the Grand Marshal of the Irish American Parade in Newark. And police organizations boycotted him because he supported Mumia. So, but to my father's rescue came, and this is why I talk about the world so small, Jerry Adams of Sinn Féin, the political arm of the IRA that was fighting, considered my father a great friend and send a letter to the Irish American Parade that said that Donald Payne was a noble appointee as Grand Marshal. And so that kind of threw, the whole organization in the tailspin. Here they are boycotting them, because he's supporting who they said was a cop killer. And then to have, one of their biggest heroes, Jerry Adams, say, no, Donald Payne is worthy of being the chair of the Irish American parade in Newark. So, and there were cops on the sideline. There were police all on the sideline heckling him as we walked through the streets of Newark. But Jerry Adams sent that letter, which was huge. So,
absolutely. Like that is something that I have to talk to Todd Burroughs about, because I don't know if he realizes that Mumia Abu-Jamal is from Newark, was one of Donald Payne Sr.'s YMCA kids, or the story about Donald Payne Sr. being boycotted for supporting Mumia Abu-Jamal, and having the head of Sinn Féin was the political wing of the IRA back when the IRA, I mean, this is pre-peace. This is the Accords, right? And that was Sinn Féin. I mean, the IRA was considered a terrorist organization, and Sinn Féin was the political wing of that. Was highly controversial, and to have him back Donald Payne Sr. and have just an incredible, intense amount of credibility within the Irish American community was just wild. Yes, he can be the Grand Marshal of the Irish Day Parade, and the political and the head of Sinn Féin saying yes, wow, that's incredible.
Consistent with his whole career, wherever he with someone else he was born.
Well, I think that there might be a difference between, and this
Okay.
Todd, I think there's a difference between maybe he was born in Philly, but he spent time in Newark.
Yeah, all I know is my father spent time with him somewhere. Now, we'll get that straight. But, to the Sinn Féin part of it, the reason Jerry Adams felt so strongly was because my father supported the IRA and Sinn Féin and their fight against the British in Northern Ireland, and he said it was wrong. And he marched in Northern Ireland with the Irish. In fact, when Jim McGreevey went to Ireland to raise money to run for governor, he was explaining what he was trying to do, and back in New Jersey, run for governor. So the people said, "Oh, you're from New Jersey?" He said, "Yes." And at the end of the talk, it said, "Well, we'll have to check with Donald Payne to see who you are." And
wow.
That blew him away. He still tells the story 30 years, 20 years later,
Because it is true that your father was international.
Yeah, I'll have to verify that story.
Okay, but I think that it's incredible in terms of the international impact that your father had as a congressman. I remember.
Well, he was boycotted. He was boycotted for supporting him. I know that piece is valid.
Right, and the whole part about Jerry Adams and Sinn Féin is just a particular piece of history, right? That is something that is a very interesting piece of history that we definitely appreciate you sharing. So, Congressman, how are you? What's going on? How is this is Congress is not in session, but there's still lots of stuff going on. What's up?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we continue to fight for women's right to choose, and are going to be very deliberate in our debate around that issue, and hoping the people of the United States understands who is trying to deny them that right, and come to the polls and remove the people that don't want to stand with close to 80% of the people in this country to be voted out. So we're continuing that fight. Gun control is still a major issue, and although we've had some movement by the Republicans in the Senate, it's not enough. And so those are really two big issues that we are combating right now in the House of Representatives. President Biden is having a program or a event at the White House on July 11th or 12th around gun violence and gun control and that type of. So I've been invited to the White House for that. So we'll see if I can make it.
And that's good because there's a lot. I know there's a lot to talk about. I'm gonna ask you. Every once in a while, I always ask you these questions to push a little bit. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna hopefully take a little bit of liberty and do that now. We had a couple of recent Supreme Court decisions. Roe v. Wade, the most controversial of them. There was a decision about guns that might force actual open carry or the ability to take guns. Many different places in New York where guns were not before, like gutting gun control laws that exist in a lot of the blue states. And recently, yesterday, there was another decision that was passed down by the Supreme Court that it says that the EPA can't regulate private corporations. Like all of the things that the administrative law, all of the things that happen in administrative law so that the EPA and other regulations that regulate private companies, like through administrative law, it seems like those things have been struck down too. I know that there was a lot of talk about whether or not Biden should expand the court, whether or not they should push for the expansion of the court. And a lot of people are like, no, it's too much. Given that these decisions are coming down fast and furious, Roe v. Wade, gutting the ability to regulate climate change because they're gutting the ability for the president to actually do things through the executive branch. Is it time that we look at expanding the number of people on the court?
Well, I think I've been one of those people that has been reluctant to do it. For the simple reason is, at some point in time, we will not be in the majority. And, how far does this thing escalate? We have a 6-3 court right now. And it's kind of giving them the ability to touch some things that really we thought were precedent in this country, and they have attacked it. In some ways I see the rationale, but in other ways, so now what do we do now? That Biden is in office, let's see, it's 6-3 now. So what should we implement? Should Biden add 4 people? So and appoint 4 people, and then then we have one up, and then when they get in, then they up it 2. So so where does it end? Is my concern.
I hear you, right? And I hear you absolutely with that. I just think that Republicans have been playing a game of chicken, knowing that Democrats are always going to turn the wheel. And I hear you in terms of, if we do this, then the Republicans, when they get 3 houses, when they get the 3 branches of government, right, they're going to do the same thing. But my thing is they already did it, right? Like that's how they got 6-3. They got it by bullying the rules. Because with Republicans, they say the rules exist. So we didn't have to confirm Merrick Garland, the Obama appointee. The rules can be changed. Like they had the power in the Senate to turn back their rules. Like, it's 2 weeks left. We're going to appoint a Republican, even though there are 2 weeks left. And we said that it shouldn't be done under Obama. They are working based on pure power, and they have not been checked on it. And until Democrats start doing certain things with pure power and legislative power that they use, then Republicans are going to do that anyway. Right now, they have 6-3. They are getting exactly what they want. And they're going to continue to be rewarded because even, McConnell was like, if there's another one opened up, we're still not going to give a hearing. That they refuse to do those things. And I think as long as Democrats continue playing by rules that were 10 years ago, then Republicans are going to still run away and get their way, even though they don't represent even close to a majority of the American people.
Well, I mean, at some point in time, the American people have to wake up and understand what's going on. And, I think that we have an opportunity here to reach out to the independent voters, which really make the difference. It's a matter of where they go that swings, this pendulum either way. And so we have to do a better job in independence to point out, the things that they are doing that are definitely harming this nation and the balance. And, we have to do a better job in messaging. I think our messaging leaves a lot to be desired. And, unfortunately, the Republicans do have the upper hand on us because they've been working on this and running this drill for 30 years to get here. And, we unfortunately have been slow to the draw. But I think that, if they continue down this road, this country is really a middle of the road country. And when you party, it's correct. The Tea Party was real, important at one time, and everybody thought, oh God, the Tea Party is going to run this forever. Tea Party is gone. And now, they talk about the squad in that way and like, oh my God, the squad. And, unfortunately, it'll go away because it is just a balance in this country. And I really don't even like using that term for those women in Congress. It's a negative connotation that the Republicans started using in order to label them. So I'm sorry I even used it. They're the progressive members of the House of Representatives, which includes Pramila Jayapal, a lot of great other progressives, but it can't swing too far in their direction because this country just has a tendency to self-correct.
But when you're talking about the country and our ability to self-correct, the question that I have is, are we going to have to wait 30 years, right? Is it going to be 30 years before, Roe v. Wade or being able to deal with climate change at a federal level? Like, how are it seems like.
Let's go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jonathan. I'm sorry.
I was going to ask, it seems like if Democrats are the only ones playing by the rules, are we handicapping ourselves to never being able to win?
That's a way to look at it, but I have faith in the system. I mean, at one time there was slavery in this country, and what happened to that? At one time we didn't have the right to vote, and what happened to that? And so, it seems like people are going back to those days, but I hope that the American people have enough. Trying to use the proper word, enough sense of moral dignity that we can see what's happened here and move in another direction. So,
Congressman, are you in DC? Or are you here in Jersey?
No, I'm in Newark.
Okay. Have you had opportunity? What is, like, at your different offices? what is the pulse? What are the people saying about this ruling to overturn Roe versus Wade? What's going on in your district, and what are people? What are your constituents asking of you?
They're irate, and they're looking for us to stand up for them and do something about it. And the president is working on that. He's kind of going a little slow for my taste, but he has a bully pulpit, and we are advocating every day to make sure he understands what my constituents are saying. When it first came down that it was even a possibility of happening, I went to Montclair in front of Planned Parenthood and made my dissension known on the issue, and a lot of my constituents were there and continue to try to work towards a resolution of this thing. I men are even in this discussion. We have no right to even be in this discussion or voting on a woman's right to choose and what she can do with her body and her health care. I mean, it's wrong. That's how I really feel about it. It's wrong. No man should have that much control over the women in this country. And to just do it, arbitrarily is really wrong. And so this should be a discussion between women. There's not a, I've said on numerous occasions since this came down, there's not a law in the United States that dictates what anything happens with a man's body in this country. And so who the hell are we to decide what women should do with their bodies?
Right.
So
that's
Go ahead, Donna.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, the sad part about it, as we already know, is that when the baby gets here, they don't have as much passion about assisting, or if that mom falls on hard times or is challenged, there's no, they don't have that fight or that passion to continue to, so it's
right. Yeah, well, this country was built on hypocrisy, so it just continues. Hypocrisy is alive and well in the United States of America, and it's unfortunate.
Congressman, I know you were at the mayor's inaugural ceremony this afternoon.
Yeah, nice.
And you heard. Congressman, I was trying to get you to lift your head up. I think I got a couple with your head when you finally picked up. I'll send them to you. I was going to say, Congressman, lift your head up so I can take a picture. But you heard the governor say that the reason he had to leave early was that he was going to sign 2 bills. Yes. And obviously one was to protect the rights of women in the state of New Jersey. The other was that he was going to sign a bill for women who were coming outside from those states. Right. Yeah. So that they could come to New Jersey and that they would be able to be protected and be able to get the health services that they need. I mean, this is absolutely incredible, man. Right. I mean, when you think about it, it's absolutely insane. And then one of the things that shows us, though, is how absolutely important it is to vote. I think that's what that's showing us, right? And as we look at the Supreme Court, as we look at, all of the ways that this stuff is going down, that's why I continually say, Congressman Payne, one is yes, it's important that we have you in place and that we get you reelected come November. But the other thing is that what's more important is we need a political education. We need people to understand how this game really works.
Right. Yeah, I'm concerned.
Because this is a serious matter. Yeah, I'm concerned that,
I'm concerned that, 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 removing, and John, you might be able to speak to this, removing, civics from, students' education, their basic education, is one of the reasons why we're in this place. I think most of us were of an age where we learned the three houses of government on the federal level and what the mayor does. They took us to City Hall to see what the mayor does and had civics lessons. That's gone. So who's teaching it? You got to get it, either get involved in the system or have, a parent that is diligent. But, a lot of people have a lot of things going on and they're getting dinner for tonight might be the thing that, is on top of the list right now. So, it's unfortunate. And I think we need to take a harsh look at that to see if that can be reinstituted in school. Yeah. And what I try to tell people, and John and Donna, listen, my vote don't count. I don't, I ain't going to, I don't want to do that. First of all, it's free. All right. And you know how much we like free. It's free. Secondly, if it wasn't important, why do so many people work so hard to keep us from voting?
Yep.
That should be your alarm. Well, why do all these folks try to keep us from voting? Why are they going to the Supreme Court and changing the voting rights? Why are they not looking at us getting the right to vote back? Because it's important. And it shapes what this country can do. Anytime somebody doesn't want you to do something, anytime the majority population fights something, it's important.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to deny it.
Yeah.
And we gotta understand that game. We gotta understand that game. And so
and that's why that's why these midterms coming up in November are so important, right? I think that, with them trying to dial back, all of the civil rights in this country. And remember, Clarence Thomas made a statement. He said that there is more to come, right? What does he mean by that? Right? We don't know exactly, but we know that what some of those civil rights are, and we've got to anticipate, what some of those are, and we've got to educate our people to the point to understand what that is.
Like a threat. Like when he said there's more to come, I was like, ooh, we're scared. Like he was trying to scare us.
Well, listen, we better listen. He ain't lying. He's, he's their messenger. We do ourselves first. So, they got him as a puppet and he just stands up there and does their bidding. And then he even tells us that they're going to do it. They probably don't want to say it, but, he's not smart enough to not tell. So
because Congressman, they were upset that somebody telegraphed that they were going to reverse Roe v. Wade, right? They were completely upset. But how did that get out?
Absolutely, it probably could have been worse if they caught us off guard. But we fought hard to let them know that this was unacceptable. And if anybody goes to my Instagram page and look up Rep. Donald Payne. I went to the floor about a month ago to chastise Justice. What's his name? Justice, the one we're just talking about.
Oh, Thomas?
Yeah, I couldn't even remember his name. Justice Thomas. I went to the floor a month ago to criticize him and his wife. And I'm gonna continue. It's gonna be at least once a week where I go to the floor and criticize Clarence Thomas, and I'm making that a mission. In my bid.
So, Congressman, you're saying that once a week. So you're saying, Congressman, once a week, Clarence Thomas is going to catch that heat from the floor of the House?
No doubt. Straight out of Newark.
Very nice.
Welcome, Hakeem Green. I always say that Hakeem Green is Newark's ambassador to hip hop.
What's up, Hard?
Peace, everybody.
Diplomat around the world, and we appreciate having you here.
Thank you. I love coming on.
Hey, before Hawk gets started, Hawk, you know, dude is an official councilman now.
Hip hop is in the building. Well, hip hop been in the building because you know Raz, you know, it's hip hop to the T.
Oh, no doubt.
You know, with Dupre Kelly,
I'm
West
saying,
Ward councilman, it's official.
Yeah, it's
Done
official.
deal. It's my brother right there. I feel so good. I feel great right now.
Yeah, he got sworn in today, right? I hit him up with a text. I said, talking to the congressman. And before you say anything, Congressman, you was an early supporter right off the bat, man. Right? And you made some statements, man, that people was offended by, but you go with it, man.
When he ran at large last time, I was
That's right. Absolutely.
Only people that stood up for him. And you know, listen, you know, I talked about hypocrisy today, and there's one thing that I cannot tolerate is a hypocrite and someone that's condescending. And I've been dealing with Du for 10, 11, 12 years on a personal basis. And for that brother to come to me and say, I want to run, what do I do after all this time I've been in his ear? I'm doing the right thing. This and that. And then when he says I want to run, I go, oh no, man, you know, I can't support you there. I stopped, I thought about it, and I said, look, I'm going to talk about it, I gotta be about it. And I never turned around and you know, I gave him money and support and stood out there in front of people. So I got some backlash from some of my old council colleagues.
Yeah.
That were like, oh, Payne, so it's do it all, huh? I said, yeah. I said, I'm not saying who should be off. I'm just saying he should be in. Now, who comes off, that's up to the people of Newark.
Right.
But I'm just saying he should be part of it. I'm not saying I'm not doing this to bring anybody off. I'm doing this because I see this young man with talent, vision, and wanting to serve his community. And I've always said, I mean, that brother can go anywhere he wants in the world. He's been around the world. But he's decided to come back to North New Jersey and be with his people and be here. How are you going to not support that?
Yeah, I thought that was big, man, to see you on stage with him today and supporting all of them, man. But I thought that, you know, seeing you with Du today, man, I was like, yo, man, that was a real good look. That's why I was trying to make sure I got that picture, man, you know.
And is he is he the first hip hop artist to actually win an elected office in the United States?
Yes, sir.
Possibly.
He's the first platinum selling hip hop artist to win an office in the nation.
Who won first? Is there somebody else?
No, he's the first.
Well, no, he's the first platinum. He's the first platinum selling. But I think there may be like you know, some folks who are definitely hip hop, who are rappers, who didn't you know, they weren't mainstream or had a national platform like Du. That one, I want to say George Martinez in New York. I want to say at one point held a city council seat in New York, and it might be somebody out in California. But you know, for all intents and purposes, you know, when we talk about somebody who's put an actual album out, sold records, millions of records, you know, Do It All is the very first. So we gonna claim that and own that. And it's only right because, you know, Newark being an arts and culture, you know, city, and to have someone who's you know, just the example of how brilliant, how much talent, how much value is in Newark, New Jersey. Like Congressman said, for him to come back, you know, to home and reinvest and, you know, plant more seeds so we can grow more value and raise the value quotient in Newark. And he's so genuine. He's so, you know, he's just Do It All's that guy. He does it all. with help from everybody around him. He understands how to bring people into the fold, and he's just awesome individual, awesome brother, and I feel proud and honored to have supported him in this campaign.
And big up to you, Hawk, for doing that, man.
It only makes sense, he was doing the work before he was doing the work, so we about to work, and it's easy to hop on board.
Hey, Ed, Hawk helped me back in the day.
Did he?
Yeah, we had a little run. We had a little run together where we were collaborating on some things through, a young lady that I knew that was, a publicist and all, and did some big things. Shana Mack, who Hawk, she's on my staff now, official.
Yeah, yes. We spoke a few weeks ago, and she told me that. She gave me a heads up. It was like 360. But I know you guys have been close for like a number of years, and I met Congressman. This was 2008, maybe. Yeah. Maybe before, but definitely 2008. When I was working with KRS-One around the Stop the Violence movement.
Right.
And and we were looking to bring Chris back, in Newark way back then.
Right.
Shane, I've done a bunch of stuff with Shane over the years. She's a wonderful person, and it's good to see her back on the team with you.
Absolutely.
And she was with you when you were the councilman?
Congressman? Yeah. We worked on some initiatives together, and I supported some things that she was doing. Really, just a community conscious sister. Has an idea a week, and she comes up with more stuff, and so I figured in order to try to control it and calm it down, I better bring her on my staff, so I can manage it a bit. But now she's been an asset to my staff, and we're looking to continue to do a lot of things in the community.
Hey, Congressman, I got a question for you. So now that we have now that the mayor has the control of the council and the mayor's office, my question is this the first time that a black mayor has had the control of the council and the mayor's office?
That's a good question.
I would say probably not, especially in Newark. That it's not uncommon for the mayor to also have a large amount of support from the council, because often they run a slate. So I would say that's probably not unheard of.
When you were on the council, Congressman, did y'all have control of the council and the mayor's office?
It depends. Well, I ran independently, in my first council race, but for all intents and purposes, I ran out of money after I ran in May, and I got to the runoff, and I was out of money, and so the Booker team had been courting me the whole time. If you remember back in that race, they only had 3 at large running with them, and they kept talking to me about being the 4th. But I ran independent of Sharp James and Cory Booker. But when I got to the primary, when I got to the runoff, I got on with the Booker team because they had the money for me to be able to finish, and so that's why I ended up on the Booker team. But I was probably one of the his biggest critics from time to time, and I try to explain to people, I just wasn't anti Booker at the time. People thought is if it was something that was good for the city, I was for it. If it was something that I didn't think it was in the best interest of the people, I voted against it. And Donna has been in that situation, in that position, but it wasn't an issue where all of that problem around Booker being mayor and all of that, was I part of, because I decided to not run with either one of them. And so once, he won the election, in the runoff, I mean, it was already settled. He was going to be mayor. So, I got on with him, and they interviewed 3 candidates that were still in the runoff. I'm not going to mention any names, but they ended up picking me to run with them. So,
and it's interesting because, like, even in the question, just because you might run with a candidate, as we all know in Newark politics, that doesn't mean you stay with the candidate. So you might they might have your support for a little bit, but maybe not later. Because I know that when it came to privatizing Newark's water, Congressman, you were very much, I believe you were very much against it at the time.
I was the deciding vote whether it happened or not. So
like that was critical, right? Like, can you tell us about that? Just
yeah, that was interesting. That was the second term, and I was, vying to be the president of the council, and I had some help from a couple of my colleagues, and then I had to talk a few into it, and I was able to become the president. But I think the mayor thought that, I was just going to be a rubber stamp. And, the first night that we had major votes, he found out that I was with the people of Newark, and really voted that whole thing down. I mean, just think if we had that MUA now, would we've been able to do lead pipe replacement? Where would we be now? But I had too much as a Newarker. I knew what that water system meant to us, and it was too precious an asset to have it in anybody else's hands but the people of Newark. And I never wavered. The funny thing is the joke that I run with them now is like, they never asked me how I was going to vote. They would have these meetings and be all happy and, another few weeks and yeah, all right. And I would just sit there in the corner with my hand over my face or with my and just kept waiting for somebody to say, Payne, how you voting on this? But they just took it for granted that I was going along. So nobody ever asked me how I was going to vote. I wouldn't have lied. I would have told them that I can't vote for that. But nobody asked me, so I didn't volunteer it. And I ended up becoming president of the council and voted no that night.
Wow.
And I learned that night. I learned that night that those, hey, Donna, check this out. Those other 8 folks, they don't matter. It's that nice seat. It's the last seat. That and it's the decider.
It was I believe it was the California politician Willie Brown who said, if you can't look someone in the face, take their money, and then turn around and vote against their interest, you shouldn't be a politician. and I
Donald
really
Tucker,
respect that.
Donald Tucker
right.
Donald Tucker used to say, like, look, he may be good, he may be popular, he may be the next mayor or the next councilman, but he can't count to 5. And if you can't count to 5, you get nothing done. And that's been the way it is. And it was an incredible experience and very pressure filled that first night. I mean, the 2 things we voted on was McCarthy staying as the director, which was very controversial, and the MUA. And so, me and I always talk about balance, and I gave them McCarthy, but I voted against the MUA. So.
And that was probably one of the most important things. As you know, like I'm a debate coach. On our policy debate last year, the only thing that we debated was water. And there are so many different cities all over the country that privatize their water supply. And literally, there are tons of Black people who could not afford water, who are being kicked off of like their water was being shut off, like all over the country, based on privatizing water. And it's not like getting the great services, et cetera, for it. It was that the corporations were making or are still making lots of money off of it. And there are people, mostly Black and brown people throughout different parts of the country, that are literally getting their water shut off because they can do that. Like they have no right to water.
Yeah, I couldn't have come. I couldn't have gone home that night and have done that and looked my father in the face and my uncle in the face. And, it was just precious to me, too, as a Newarker. I knew what that meant and what it meant to this country. I mean, to this city. And it is one of the most amazing things that I ever thought that the forefathers of this city had the foresight to go up there in the Sussex County and buy those tracts of land. And that's Newark property up there. And, a lot of people over the period of time that we've owned it are kidding themselves that Newark still owns that property and those reservoirs. And it is an amazing thing. So, I just, when I learned of it and learned about the water system and all, I just said, how smart were those guys back in the 1800s, 1700s to buy that land for the city of Newark and hold that water. Amazing.
No, that was a damn good vote. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For you to do that. But Congressman, I got to ask you a question. Hopefully, you can educate us on this. As you know, I don't know if you all know, but LaMonica McIver is now the president of the Newark City Council. She was voted in. Today.
All right.
And so Congressman, you haven't been in that seat. What does that really mean, right? When you become the president of the city council, what does that mean?
What does that mean? Go ahead, Congressman.
Well, you're really the arbiter of the city government, and a lot of pressure falls on you to make sure your colleagues understand, what we're voting on, to count votes and see where we are. And if I have to talk someone into something, it's a very demanding position. And, people love you one day and hate you the next. And, you just got to have a strong fortitude and be consistent in the way you operate. If you're all over the place, then you'll have problems. But if you're consistent in how you handle things, then people learn to understand how you're going to operate, what you're going to do, and do the work properly. So I always respected my colleagues, showed them the deference that they should get. But when I had to knuckle down, I knuckled down. And even with the administration, the 4 years before I was council president, they would just run legislation up to us the last minute. They always had added starters. I mean, they would have 15 or 20 added starters. And, I'm not the brightest kid in the room. So, I can't just absorb all that stuff. You bring it up the day we're supposed to vote and say, here, this is what you're voting on. No, everybody, the administration, whoever they're working with, the mayor's office, the department it came out of, all have been working on it for some period of time. So now to rush it up to us, like the day before or the day of, and say, oh, here, just vote on this. We've done all the work. We've read it all. You just vote on it. No. So when I became the president, I abolished all added starters. And I got them to function the way they should. They got to bring it up. It's got to get on the agenda. If it's not on the agenda by the required time, it doesn't go. Oh, you should have seen when I started that. They were going crazy because they were just so used to running stuff up there at the last minute. So I used to have a line. I used to have a line outside my office. Councilman, we really need to do this because if we don't do, I said, you should have had it up here. You're right. It is important. You should have had it up here.
You set the standard and the tone for how that meeting is going to be run and how the council is going to do business. And if you can do it haphazardly, or you can do it in a way where it's very organized. And because you also, when you're doing legislation, you have to give the people the opportunity to absorb it as well. So sometimes walk-ons as a matter of business is not the way that we should be doing business.
Absolutely. Everybody else had time to look at it. but us. And I just didn't think that was the way I wanted to continue under my leadership. Another tough position, in Newark, you know how those council meetings have been and raucous and wild, and people coming up and wanting to speak, and them allowing them to speak. I stopped all that. If you weren't on the 25 on the list, you could not speak. And period. Didn't matter what happened. So a bodega owner, a well-loved bodega owner, Dominican bodega owner, got killed. And his family showed up at the council meeting to speak. They weren't on the list. So I told them they couldn't speak. And so a couple, the members of the council said, "Hey, Payne, man, these people are here. You better let them speak." I said, "They're not on the list." And they were surprised that I stuck to my guns. But I mean, in order to run a meeting properly, I can't open that door and then everybody, well, you let them last week speak, and no. So it was very tough to tell that family they couldn't, but I didn't allow it, and took some criticism for it. But I mean, I maintained the integrity of the city council meeting.
Now does she come up for re-election every year? Is that what happened, or every 4 years?
Every year.
Depends on how they do it.
For council president, is annually during a reorg, right? Annually during a reorg.
So that's every year.
But the reorg is every 4 years.
The reorg.
I didn't have to run. Once I became president, I was president.
For your term?
Yep.
Oh, yep. Wow. Yeah. In Orange, we did a reorg.
So every 4 years in Newark. Okay.
So everybody does it differently, because in Orange, we did a reorg every July 1st, the first July 1st, we did a reorg. And during that reorg, you would set who would be council president and vice president.
Yeah,
and then you will also do your committees and things like that.
Yeah, in Newark, they didn't run it that way, and it's kind of a deviation from the norm. That it has been. 9 times out of 10, they've used they have used over a period of time the highest vote getter. Okay. But LaMonica MacGyver is not the highest vote getter, so they've deviated from that in this too. Also, there wasn't a council vice president until Mildred Crump won her first term as president, and then they created the vice president and named Louis Quintana that. So it's run different ways. And I remember back when my father was on the council, they did do 1-year terms. One cycle, they gave it to George Branch, and then Ron Rice, and then Tucker, and then Villani. So I guess it's really about how they agree to do it.
And remember, you have council rules. Sometimes, in the council rules, they dictate how you're going to do business amongst the council. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, Congressman, you had the we have Supreme Court Justice Ketanji. She's sworn in now, and she's going to be finally in a part of these discussions. How do you think the dynamics are going to change now?
Well, I think we have, obviously a dynamic woman on the court that brings new experiences to the discussion and the debate that the Supreme Court will have. Her experiences, her lived experiences, and her academic ability, which is second to none on the court. As was stated during her nomination time that she is probably the most qualified person ever to be named to the position. And so, I think that bodes well for what she's going to be able to articulate, in a manner that hopefully can win some of these arguments and persuade some of these people to look at things in a different light. That's my hope. But based on the road that they're going down, of course, the sister would be nominated now to be a part of this debacle. And but I mean, she's fairly young too, so she has time to make her mark, on this court as well. So.
I have a question.
Yes.
What are the chances of Joe Biden adding more justices to the court, packing the court?
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. I think it's something that they are entertaining. Although I told them, Hawk, that I wasn't necessarily one of the proponents of packing the court, because there'll be a day when we aren't in power, and then they'll do the same thing. And I mean, where do we go? Let's see. So for now, for us to even it out, we'd have to nominate. He'd have to add 4. So then we'd be ahead 1. So then the next time they come along and add 2, so they'll be up 2. And then next time we'll go and add 3, and you have 25 members of the Supreme Court. So I it's unfortunate where we are, and some horrible games have been played, some dastardly deeds have been done. But I mean, I still have a hard time with packing the court.
Yeah. I thought. I'm sorry.
No, you were saying.
No, I was just agreeing with Congressman that it's an idea, but the pushback once they're in power could be out of hand. But then there's the. I'm sorry.
No. You were saying, you can finish.
Yeah, there's the idea that when the Republicans are in power, they make things happen. They don't really worry about the morality, the ethic, if they have they have an agenda, they execute the agenda. They bully their way to the execution. And the Democrats, and in their willingness to be more ethical and moral and conscious, lose opportunities.
Right. Yeah.
What I said earlier is that that Republicans play a game of chicken, knowing that Democrats will always turn the wheel. Like, we will always turn the wheel. We will always veer off. And yet it doesn't matter what we do. When they get in power, they'll add more people to the court if they need to. They'll delay people if we're trying to get people in the court. Like, it doesn't matter what we do. Their only goal is to maintain power. And I think until we realize that, even if we vote, even if we come out to vote, even if we, because right now we are the majority, right? Like the when we come out in terms of the elections, et cetera, we are often in the majority. They know that they are a ruling minority, but they're like, any way we can keep power, we're going to keep power. And we're going to still keep playing by rules that were like from Republicans 10 years ago.
Yeah, we have to really understand our power. It's still that whole issue around voting. And we have to understand how important it is. And I just think that, if we exercise it to our fullest, we make the difference. Mayor Baraka said it today that New Jersey would be a red state if it wasn't for Black and brown people voting.
That's true.
We're the ones that make it blue.
That's true.
So, there are states all across this nation that are in the same position, but do not have the participation levels that are really lacking in New Jersey as well. But just think, their participation levels that are lower than the ones that we are faced with here in New Jersey. And, that really has to, I don't know what has to happen to make people understand that, that can be the difference in where we are and how, people perceive
I
us.
think that, I think that, welding power is something Democrats like, because we voted and we did get Joe Biden in and we did win the Senate. Like you said, vote, get us the Senate. We got the Senate, right? So it's not like we're not voting. We are. I think that once we vote and when we get the power, we know we got to use it, right? We can't sit back because we know when Republicans get the power, they're not taking their foot off that gas.
Yep.
And we need to get as much as we can when we can.
That's
Right? They passed these decisions. They overturned Roe v. Wade. Trump was in
stacked
office
that court.
for 4 years.
Yes.
4 years. He stacked the whole court. He used his power to the
Jonathan, and that's what we have to understand. When you're elected for a term. You're
Right.
not promised all of this time. That term is a term you have to work in, and you need to do that body of work. We did not
And
get
Trump did it. He did the
right.
thing.
He
did the thing for his people.
We always think we have the next or whatever, but like we didn't have an opportunity to talk about guns. But what's going on with these guns right now? It's terrible. People, every time you open a paper, it's just tragedy. We had 2 shootings here in the city of Newark over the last couple of days, and
9
the
people
shootings in a drive-by, right? And then the young lady, the domestic violence with the young lady who was 20 pushing her baby walking down the street on the Upper East Side. It's looking like it's turning out to be domestic violence. We have to. We have a lot of work to do, and we have to be about our business and get very serious about doing the work and understanding what it is, what we need to do.
When is 24 Hours of Peace coming?
August 26th and 27th.
Because after this weekend in Newark, I'm not in Newark right now. I'm in Iowa. I'm in a building dedicated to George Washington Carver. I'm at a debate camp called the Global Debate Symposium, where I'm both teaching and learning about debate to be a better debate coach. That was just Chris Randall in the background. We're here working, learning, teaching kids about how to debate better. So that's just where we are right now. But when talking about 24 Hours of Peace and talking about just all the stuff that we need to do, I'm glad that you're doing it, Hakeem. Shout out to Elijah Smith. Elijah Smith is the Rutgers debate coach. He's here too, out in Iowa. He's probably one of the best college debaters in the history of college debate. We've had him on the show before. But just, big shout out to where I am, but also shout out to you, Hakeem, for the 24 Hours of Peace. I know that Newark is hurting, and I know, Congressman, y'all just passed some legislation on guns, and I know you said earlier that it's not enough. They need to do more. So I know we're getting ready to head to the end of the show, so we can close it out and final words for today. And this week, I just wanted to speak that and just say that was on my mind, given all the violence that happened in Newark in this last week. And Hakeem, and the 24 Hours of Peace that we need more than ever before. And to shout out the Congressman for some rare bipartisan gun legislation that passed in the same week that the Supreme Court is about to try to make all our states open carry. So a lot going on, a little bit of shout outs. But last words for tonight. Just anyone shout out. And I do want the Congressman to have the last word.
Okay.
Well, I would say to that, think about how insane that is, right? To have, you get into an argument now, think about this, right? Particularly in our community, right? Like, how some guy cuts you off or whatever, and you decide to say something about it. When you got a gun, you all of a sudden feel a lot more braver than you would if you weren't carrying a gun, especially these white dudes, right? So can you imagine what that would be like if he cut you off and all of a sudden, they push you, you'd be like, yo, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? And then all of a sudden you stop your car and now you get out. Now this guy got a gun. He's in an open carry state. Now all of a sudden he got a concealed license. You don't even know he got a gun. Now all of a sudden he can say, I'm standing my ground and end up killing you.
Yeah. It's scary out there. I can't believe we're actually in this position right now, where in Jersey, of all places, New York City, I'm down here in Florida, and it's been open carry down here for a long time, forever. It's a different lifestyle, a different culture. But coming back from where I'm coming from, the access to guns without it being legal is too much. And now to make it legal, and we have the question of mental health. We have the criminality that our baby's been raised on for the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
And I keep it 1,000, with the culture, I'm not even gonna say hip hop, but with rap music and the messaging and the constant, the repetitiveness of gun culture. We have to look at this in a different way and be, extremely active in how we engage our people, from mental health, but also in terms of civics and how politics and government actually work. So once we raise the people up, they can actually engage themselves in their government properly. I think a lot of the issues we're having with voting is people just don't understand how to actualize the power, like how voting works, how to network, how to organize around government, local, county, state, and the disconnect with, why our people tend to be Democrats and us needing Democrats top down to have a domino effect. You have leverage in places like it's missing. They they champion the opposite side a lot, and we got to get that education going.
We talked about that earlier.
All right, Donna.
And we coming up on a holiday weekend, and I often think of Frederick Douglass. What does the 4th of July mean to the Negro? It's a time that we can reflect and read that, and wish on this long weekend everybody be safe and encourage your neighbor to be safe, and let's just try to be as harmonious as possible, because our babies are getting hurt and our communities are dying unnecessarily.
All right. Congressman.
Yeah, I just let me thank all of you for being on with me. You always challenge me, and I always learn something. It's really good to see Hawk on the screen. He just gives me great feelings of the time that we spent together in Newark and worked, and just a genuine good brother, out here trying to do the work that we need done. And to the three of you, we've been on this road a little while now, haven't we?
Yeah, man. Ever since you've been Congressman.
Yeah.
Is this my? Yep. Well, then this is my 10th year.
We've been together 10 years.
Wow.
Ever since. Yep, that's right.
It's amazing. That's amazing. But it's a great venue.
And remember, Congressman, I told you last week you created the name that you didn't even remember.
That's right. How about that? Every once in a while, I have a moment of right. But thank you all for people listening, and I saw a comment by one of the listeners that said the Republicans play the long game, and it is true. They have created an agenda and have worked it for 30 years, and we're seeing the results of that consistent work for 30 years. And the thing that you have to understand about the Democratic Party is it's a much bigger tent. And, as we're doing pro-choice. We have LGBTQ to think of. We have conservative Democrats to think of. We have progressive part of the party. We're a big tent. They have three things: no new taxes, focus on the judges, and anti-abortion. And they've been running that drill. They may veer off a little, but those three things are their core mission. And unfortunately, they have run their drill to perfection. And we need to do something about it. And so we have to plan ourselves, get our messaging together. We could just get our messaging together. It could help, bring us a long way too. But just thank you for the opportunity to come on and speak to the constituents and the folks that listen to you guys and giving me this forum. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, we appreciate you back, Congressman. We appreciate you back. That is it
No,
for
right.
on All Politics So Local. Thank you to Shavar Jeffries for coming on. Thank you to Dr. Todd Steven Burroughs and Pam Africa. Thanks for hopping on, Hakeem, and thank you so much for joining us again, the Honorable Congressman Donald Payne.
On the Payne
happy
report.
birthday. Happy birthday to my triplets tomorrow. They'll be
Happy birthday.
24 now.
All right. Happy birthday to the triplets.
And
all right.
Today is John's birthday.
Oh,
Yep.
John.
Today's your birthday, John?
Today is my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, bro.
Yep.
Happy
Yeah, man. 25?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the look.
Everybody else got great beards.
Hey, youngin.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Hey, take care.
All right.
All right.
Take care.
Peace.